Okay, great. Welcome to the Palo Alto Parks and Recreation Commission meeting on Friday, April 11th. I would like to call the meeting to order and start with a roll call.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
And Commissioner, I believe you're invoking AB 2449. Did you want to make that announcement now?
Yes, I'm attending under the just cause provision.
We do have a script. Did you receive that?
No.
Okay. Let me.
You want to circle back with them?
Yeah, we'll circle back. Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Cripps.
Here.
Commissioner Day. Chair Freeman.
Here.
Vice Chair Greenfield.
Here.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Way.
Here.
Okay, perfect. I can share my screen and show the script.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Brown, I'll share my screen so you can see the script if that's all right. And you'll just have to reply that.
Okay. All right, I have just cause to attend this meeting remotely under AB 2449. I've not attended a meeting remotely due to just cause more than once this calendar year. I've attended no meetings remotely this calendar year. I must attend this meeting remotely because I am providing for my daughter. And I am in this room, I am accompanied by no one over the age of 18.
Perfect, thank you so much.
I think that you, 3 minutes, Commissioner Brown.
I did not hear a response.
Oh, okay. We did call her. Okay, so now's the opportunity for public comments, for those who want to address the commission on non-agenda items. If there are any members of the public who are in person, which I see none, and would like to address the commission, please fill out the speaker card. If you are on Zoom, please raise your hand and the clerk will acknowledge your presence.
There's no one on that end.
Okay, seeing none, we move on to our first agenda item, which is the approval of the minutes. No? I'm missing something. Okay. So we'll move on to, do we need the agenda? Are there any proposed changes to the agenda for the March, 18th?
Yes,
agenda changes.
Oh, I mean, agenda changes for this meeting we're into April 11th.
If possible, I would like to have a short discussion of a bill that is now SB 315 Grayson, which undermines park equity, local authority, and the ability of cities to provide parkland for their residents. So I'd like to
Add that to the agenda.
if possible.
I don't think you can add it to the agenda. It could be
Included
with other. It could be included as just a statement of information, or there may be context to discuss it within the course of the discussion of the retreat items. I don't know. There may be some.
You can see where it fits when we start talking about the
Well,
different.
I can give an update on that, and then, I can figure out if you want to have any ongoing discussion of that at a later date, or staff wants to have an internal discussion or conference. So, yeah,
Okay, I think that's fine.
I'll just provide the information.
So the other information is currently on the agenda for the end of the meeting. If you wanted to allow us to discuss information on that earlier, you could change it in the order where it is.
Okay. Is this something that we can discuss towards the end, or it might fit within one of the, agenda items that we might be discussing as well.
All right, so let's discuss it at the end unless something comes up earlier that I see that this really
Where you see it
belongs.
as a fit,
Yeah.
okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that, you want to go ahead and move the vote?
Yeah, as for new topics, I'm not sure. For the Brown Act, whatever's posted, we have to stick with discussing that, but if that topic fits in another.
Yeah.
Item, I think that's
Okay,
appropriate.
sounds good.
I don't think that you need to vote on it.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right, we'll move on to, the city official reports, Councilmember Richard Haynes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have to say, I'm continuing to be delighted to be your liaison. The prior commission for which I was liaison did not have an offsite retreat at a lovely place like this. And so
We want to keep it a
I
secret.
feel really fortunate. And also driving in here, I couldn't help but be reminded as I entered off the main road that once upon a time, this park was not open to people beyond Palo Alto residents. And that decision was made 4 or 5 years ago. And as I just drove in and took in the beauty and the enormity of this open space, I felt really proud of our city for going the direction that it did. It was pushed and nevertheless made the right decision. And you know, I think we should pause and note moments of progress when we're reminded of them. And for me, that was one today. At council on Monday, our 2 main items were a lengthy discussion on a proposed dark sky ordinance to protect birds and other wildlife and insects and humans. We had a lengthy discussion about various restrictions we might enforce. We did not vote on an ordinance on Monday, but rather asked staff to come back with more. But I would say we're making progress toward that. There was also a vote on whether to support a Senate bill called SB 457, which would seek to limit the builder's remedy, which is a tool builders can use to develop housing if cities haven't passed a housing element. And this was a 4-3 vote for us. Normally we tended to vote 7-0. And 4 of us felt that this was an appropriate bill to support, and 3 of us felt that it was overbroad and we kind of sweep in good things along with the bad things that we're trying to make sure don't happen, such as 80 Willow Road in Menlo Park, which is that 39-story enormity. And so it just shows, I think, this council is doing its work. Sometimes you can read 7-0 votes as like, is everybody really paying attention? Or are they just like being lazy? We're not being lazy ever. And I think when you see something like a 4-3, we would appreciate that. We're not always on the same page. And people are going to stand up for, you know, what they believe is the right thing. Coming up next week, we are looking at potentially a new parking structure at 375 Hamilton, which might also include housing. We are looking at a proposed development of housing at 70 Encina, which is right behind Town and Country. In the parking lot between Town and Country and the Opportunity Center in Panth is kind of a closed off, fenced off square on which 10 townhomes are proposed. Strangely, most of the Town and Country parking lot and buildings are owned and operated by a set of entities, but this one little square that is fenced off is owned and potentially being developed by somebody completely different. And it just goes back to land use decisions in the 1950s when Town and Country was acquired or was assembled. They probably bought a bunch of properties and this one didn't want to sell. And here it is still its own thing. And so we're going to be looking at that. We're also looking at a renter's protection item related to one's criminal history should not be relevant when seeking to rent property. And then coming up on the 21st, items that are a bit more relevant to y'all. The Coverly Master Plan project, the next step for it is to put a poll out in the community to see what the community is looking for. And the council's gonna get a chance to look at the draft poll, and then it's coming to y'all the next night on the 22nd. So it's a heads up that that's coming, and we're very interested in your feedback on whether the right questions are being asked. And, yeah. And finally, also of great interest to the PRC, that same night, the 21st, we are going to vote on whether to approve a comprehensive turf study, which will compare the pros and cons of synthetic and natural turf. There's a field called Mayfield out at the Stanford Palo Alto fields area that is right or is ready for replacement and urgent, and that, you know, has prompted alongside it a deep questioning of whether artificial turf is in fact the solution we thought it was when we first started installing it. And so I think you will have an interest in that conversation as well. So that's it from your council member liaison. And again, just gratitude to have the opportunity to connect with you. And I want to thank you for your hard work on behalf of the city.
Thank you. And thank you for the update. We ask, especially the members of the public that have any comments.
There's no one on Zoom, no hands raised,
Thank you.
and, I don't believe we're allowing public comment on this item as well, so, all good.
All right, thank you. We'll start with business item number 2. We'll start by first reviewing our work plan accomplishments for the year. Vice Chair Greenfield is going to present the PRC work plan improvements from the prior year, and then we'll begin to discuss priorities for the upcoming year. We'll jump into a discussion of the ad hoc committees and the liaison roles. The roles are different than last year, so we'll spend a little bit more time discussing those. We didn't, Chair Greenfield and I did not have an opportunity to meet with staff. So we'll start the discussion to see if staff feels that there are any existing ad hocs or liaisons that kind of align with their staff priorities, which I'll go over as well. And so we'll spend some time on that. And then we'll spend the remainder of the time working on the work plan. So with that being said, Vice Chair Greenfield, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Freeman. And before I get started, maybe we could talk just a little bit about an overview in terms of what our goals are for the city in terms of normally at the retreat, which is happening in a different time within our annual cycle of the commission starting up and having new members and creating work plans. Normally we're focused on creating a new work plan, but how that's different with this.
Yeah, I don't see, I mean, this is sort of my, I guess, going in my third year and the third retreat, I guess, I've attended. And I don't, looking at and this is something we'll be going through as well, looking at the priorities for both the city and what the staff have laid out, and then looking at our priorities from last year. I think the goal of the retreat on this point, with not only looking at our work plan, but also looking at the ad hocs and the liaisons, and then whether or not a lot of the ad hocs that we had from last year, those that were completed, and maybe those that we didn't really get to finish, and making a determination as to whether or not some of the ad hocs should fall into the liaison bucket, or some of the liaisons that we had a number of them last year, and be looking at some of those, whether or not some of those need to be eliminated or expanded, and I think also I know we talked about this last time, which was to try and define exactly what the liaison roles are. We sort of have some of a clear understanding of what the ad hoc roles are. And so I think it's kind of a time to maybe redefine or kind of revisit those and see if the definition that we have established for both the ad hoc and also for the liaison, if those are still in line with how we have put those together, and we'll be looking for staff's input on that. I know we talked a lot about that at our last retreat, in really trying to get a good definition of what the purpose of the ad hocs are and what the purpose of the liaisons are. And then the work plan itself, and making sure that the work plan, when we're coming up with the definition of defining what the roles are for those different items that are in the work plan, are those really things that can be completed within the year? And we want to look at those as being, because I think if you look back at some of the work plans and something you'll be going over and looking at our accomplishments, as everyone was putting together their accomplishments, that you really have a good feel that you had really completed a number of the items that were on your work plan, to really say it is a completed item, or if it's something that's going to carry over into the next year. So I think we have to really give a hard look at some of the items that we put into our work plan and say, can we actually have a start point or pick up from where we left off? And can we actually be able to complete that before, when we do our presentation to the city council at the time that's going to be defined?
Thanks. I think that's helpful. And I think on the work plan, and perhaps Kristen or Sarah can concur or clarify. Normally, we're wrapping up our work plan and sending a work plan report and a new work plan to city council to approve. And I think this time, since it's a transition between when our terms end, that we're looking to, the general philosophy is we're looking to continue with the existing work plan, make modifications forward, and any changes to city council to review potentially on consent. If they aren't significant, but rather than wrapping up a work plan and starting new, we're looking to continue, look to see if there's any work plan items that are complete that we can cross off. If there's anything new that we need to add, potentially rearrange people on the ad hocs if desired. That's it. It's a different approach.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think we've talked about a little bit about this, the fact that, we're in April now. We did the presentation to the city council, I think, in November. We're starting at this point to work on the work plan that's supposed to be a 12-month activity, right? But with a possibility of new commissioners joining us in the November, December timeframe, that means that there has to be some kind of changeover. And at that point, we're looking at about 5 months. So, I mean, when we start to work on the work plan, how can we really look at that from a 12-month activity when there's going to be sort of a gap and then a ramp up to get whatever new members, whether that be 2 or 3, whatever, that rejoin us in December. December is kind of a dead month, so you really can't get a start of it until sometime in January. And then at what point do we go back to present to the council when you've only had maybe 3 months to work on the existing work plan, so a little bit of a wrap up, depending on whether or not some of the work plan items are a continuation, and hopefully there's hopefully 90% of what's on the work plan will get completed by the time we present to the city council. And I guess kind of knowing what those dates and what those timeframes are would probably be helpful in us putting together the work plan as well.
So I think our focus today is visioning the work plan that gets us through this calendar year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the best plan, just because of the shift in the recruitment dates. So we would get new commissioners in, I don't know, November, December, maybe January, I'm not sure, but and then we
It's currently November 1st.
right. And then start a new work plan for the calendar year. And then
Start the
we
work
can get
plan
on that.
in Jack, so whatever work we do today, with whatever commissioners are assigned to that work plan. We'll take it up to that point.
I
Is that
think
what
that
you
makes
said?
sense.
Yeah.
I think so, and that's important as we try to figure out what's realistic to accomplish, what our time horizon is.
But theoretically, we have possibly at least two people rolling off, right?
Mhm.
Maybe three. I'd still guarantee that I'll get nominated, but but anyway, that's
Yeah, nothing theoretical about
yeah,
that.
right, nothing theoretical. Who knows? The world might even be here in December. Okay. Start. Give me the phone.
Without further ado. All right, so I'm going to talk about the year looking back and review the past year. It's been a good year. There's been some good work done. The commission's been active and engaged, and I think it's generally worked very well together. It's been a challenging year as well. And it's been a challenging year. Things going on macro level, on the national level, but there's obvious staff transitions and challenges, and we appreciate all the hard work and support we've got from staff, and really it's just the time to remind ourselves and everyone that the commission is we serve at the discretion of city council, but really we're nothing without the staff that we work with, and we really we need to make sure that we're in sync with staff and able to support them with their priorities, and as we develop specific projects that we're working on, make sure that we have staff's buy-in and support, and it fits with all the resources available, both people and financial resources. So next slide, please. So just quickly reviewing the priorities from the past year, and we use FY as the fiscal year for what we were talking about, and that technically runs from July 1st to June 30th. Generally, more or less coincides with the period for which we developed the work plan. And then, as was mentioned, the work plan got to city council a little bit late, but a little bit after that, we were working forward on that. So we had three priorities for the past year, which were the same priorities as the previous year. And it's something we'll review again as later in the meeting, see if there's anything you want to change. But the priorities are broad. They encompass quite a bit, and the commission itself has a broad purview, and is involved in a broad area of work. We talked about the ad hocs, and this commission certainly makes more broad use of ad hoc committees than any other commission, and liaison roles as well, and that is related to the broad purview. So the three priorities were optimizing resources to offer diverse recreation opportunities and promote community health and wellness. And this is very core to a park and recreation commission, especially. I think community health and wellness is we know that community health and wellness is an important priority for the community, and aligns well with city council priorities as well. And backing up, when the commission develops our priorities, we need to make sure that's in line with city council's priorities. City council has 4 priorities for this year. Not all of the city council's priorities relate directly to our commission. We need to make sure that our priorities are in line, are aligned with city council's priorities. The second priority is advance equity, access, and inclusion for programs, parks, and open space. And this is talking about, programs, parks, and open space really is a broad encompassing of the purview of Parks and Recreation Commission, both for our parks and the rec programs we have there, and the open space areas. We're so fortunate to be able to enjoy as a community and enjoy as a commission at this moment. As the council member Scott Haynes alluded to in her introductory remarks. And the third priority is enhanced biodiversity, environmental sustainability, and climate change resilience. And this is more focused on the open space areas. It's worth noting that Palo Alto does not have an environmental or sustainability commission that many other communities do have. The Parks and Rec Commission is the closest we have. We appreciate getting presentations and working collaboratively with the Public Works Department as well as Community Services Department. Both departments have a close relationship, and a lot of the work we do in related to this third priority is cross-departmental within the city. Next slide, please. So the next three slides are going to be in a similar format that we used last year. This is reviewing a list of our accomplishments, and a lot of some of this is celebrations of good things that have happened. I think it's very helpful to see a record of what we've done, and this is what the chair and I, working with staff, have put together. If there's anything on this, if there's anything that commissioners feel that we're missing, please comment on that, and so we can add things to the list if appropriate, so that we can create a proper record. And so within the first priority, broke it into three buckets. One was improved transparency and our fairly extensive review of the CIP projects across two meetings at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. I think was a significant contribution by the commission, and appreciate the staff's assistance in helping present the information in a manner that is digestible and for the commission, and being open to our feedback to help provide guidance based on the feedback of the commission. The second bucket is the work we did to develop and improve park facilities. And this is kind of broken into two groups. One of this is specific work, working with staff and working with the community, work in the pipeline, projects that aren't completed. And that the primary one there, the big elephant there is the wellness center development, and it's creating a gym and wellness center for a community that the city owned has long been a great interest to members of the community and members of the commission, and now we have a nonprofit supporting this effort, and look forward to continued progress on this. There's been incremental progress on the skate park development as well, with plans going with the planning commission reviewing things, and getting support from our nonprofit our funding partners to develop a mechanism for funding. And Robley's Park improvements is getting underway. The city has about a 20-year cycle of park improvements, where each of the playgrounds is updated on a rotating basis, and Robley's is up next. Oh. Yes.
Remus is missing.
We'll get to it. Okay. And then below, there's been a queue of work. The commission had reviewed a number of restroom and park improvement programs or plans. Things got clogged up during COVID, and we're finally. Last year was a great year to see a lot of the work been planned for some time get completed, and celebrating a lot of openings. And that included the Bulwer Park project, which just reopened. That included included redoing the existing park and adding additional land to the park by closing the street and purchasing property across the street from it. Cameron Park improvements, Mitchell Dog Park improvements, and then restrooms. We opened up restrooms in 3 locations: at the Peverly Playing Fields, at Ramos Park, and at Rincon Auto Park. Yes, we should. So Ramos should be park improvements and restrooms.
Park improvements and
Yeah.
restrooms.
Yeah. Thank you. And then, our commission, or our community, or the community services department, our commission, all rely heavily on work with our community partners. And we have some incredible community partners that add to the range and the range of recreation and environmental support to offer to the city. And a number of the, so listed here is all the groups that presented and supported the Parks Commission the past year. That includes the Aquatics, Canopy, Community Gardens, First Tee, our invaluable funding partners, Friends of Palo Alto Parks and Palo Alto Rec Foundation, the Palo Alto Pickleball Club, the Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance, and the Palo Alto Youth Council. We really, I can't say enough about how much we appreciate their support.
And these have been groups that have also presented at the PRC meetings on occasion too, and those are always appreciated.
Right, so all these do present.
Grassroots ecology, or is that?
So there are other groups. There's Save the Bay, Grassroots Ecology, Environmental Volunteers. This is just a list. This is a short list of the groups that presented and had a discussion with the commission this past year.
That's what the environmental volunteers and grassroots ecology. I would
But
add
not in the last fiscal year though.
Oh,
Not in the period that we're covering.
really? Okay.
I went through all
I
the.
believe you.
I went through all the agendas.
It seems like the years kind of met, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've been there.
So since this, and the period that this is covering is April to March,
Okay.
April 24 to March 25.
Yeah.
And
I'm just seeing the environmental volunteers.
It's okay, they make an impression, that's good.
Yeah, no,
But I
that's good.
thought, the timing, if Jeff says that it wasn't this fiscal year.
well, you can trust me on this one, because I looked it up, but
Yeah, you did.
my COVID has ruined my sense of time. Next slide, please. Thank you. I need the next slide too. So on the equity, access, inclusion for programs, parks, and open space, here's a list of the programs that have been reviewed and projects that the commission has discussed and made comments on. In the previous, just before the start of this fiscal year, Towerwell Park was the commission recommended to become dedicated parkland and was approved by City Council. And then after that, it was redirected back to the commission to consider the renaming of the park to honor Fred Irely, an early city employee who was instrumental with the utilities in the community. And so the park was renamed Fred Irely Towerwell Park. The commission unanimously recommended that, and the City Council approved that subsequently. We had a number of transportation related projects. We have an ad hoc that's been working on bicycle and pedestrian open space access, and reviewing our existing policies, and there's been recommendation, we'll be presenting to the commission this month. And we also presented a proposed change to payback all pedestrian advisory, pedestrian Pedestrian advisory, Palo Alto bike.
Like, advisory commission?
Pedestrian Bike Advisory Committee. There we go. We also had another opportunity to review the bike and pedestrian transportation plan, or the BPTP, which has been in work for some time and has a lot of great updates. It's effectively the master plan for that area of our community. And there's an exciting project that was presented to us and the commission's supported for a new traffic garden. This is a Girl Scout Gold Award project. And staff did a great job in finding, in kind of taking the project concept and figuring out how to make it happen. And there's plans to get it in place at Ventura Community Center. And a traffic garden is a nice name, but it's a little confusing what it means. It's not incredibly descriptive, not intuitively descriptive,
Yeah.
but it's basically a layout of a practice area for young bicyclists to become familiar with the how to engage and get through various different things that you see along the way with biking. So crosswalks, roundabouts, driveways, parking areas, etc. On the programming side, we have a new. We're working with middle school athletics to consider new directions for how to best support our community. The middle school athletics program is something that's run by the community services department through the schools, and this is one of a number of excellent relationships where we have staff working with PAUSD on things as well as managing the playing fields. And anything we can do to help our help this program help increase availability and enhance the programs is great for the community on a number of different levels. We just reviewed the Eleanor Pardee Park restroom survey. The community park has been some members. There's been discussion about adding a restroom to the community park for a long time, and this is a new effort that many members of our community are looking to have happened, not without differences of opinions. Racket court policy is something that we have an ad hoc that's continuing to review. And there was a project to add pickleball court lines to the tennis courts at Terman Park, located at Fletcher Middle School.
I think those have been.
It's done, right?
It's done.
Yes, good.
I forgot about that one.
That's a good one.
Next slide, please. Okay. On the final priority projects and programs under the biodiversity, environmental sustainability, and climate change umbrella. Commission had a unanimous recommendation supporting Valley Water's tide gate repair PIO for the Palo Alto flood basin, the park improvement ordinance. And work is going to be moving forward on that. And we appreciate the work Valley Water's done to reach out and work with our community, to take our input and work with the commission as well. We've developed a pretty strong relationship with Valley Water over the past few years, specifically related to various iterations of this project. And there have been presentations regarding general updates for our primary nature preserves from park ranger staff regarding both Foothills Nature Preserve, Pearson Rastradero Nature Preserve and the Baylands. And this has not been an opportunity where we get a status update and learn a lot about what's happening from staff and have an opportunity to provide input as well. The park dedication ad hoc is continuing work looking at potential new sites to recommend for dedication, and expects to be presenting to the commission in May with some recommendations. This Parks and Rec Commission serves as the official community forum for the urban forestry section of the Public Works Department. This is something that's added in the Muni Code to the charter of the Parks and Rec Commission a few years back, at the same time that the tree ordinance, Title 8 of the Muni Code, was updated. And in conjunction with that, the commission recently reviewed the Tree and Landscape Technical Manual draft, which is an update from its predecessor, a draft update for its predecessor, the Tree Technical Manual. And then we also heard from Peter Gollinger, the city's urban forester, about tree ordinance updates. The BCCP, or Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan, is the project that was started a number of years ago, and an ad hoc has been working with staff to try to further this along, and we'll be presenting to the commission soon. And then there's a number of utilities related projects from the open spaces that presented their plans to the commission, and we provided significant feedback, I think, regarding. This is at Rastadero Creek, a stabilization plan for the repair of some utility lines and various options related to that. There's a sewer pipe rehab plan for Bixby Park, which is required, and so we talked about the associated trail closures of that. And OES, the Office of Emergency Services, has a plan for radio equipment at the fire station 6, just up the hill here, which is very interesting to hear. So that's a review. That's a review of a lot of the detailed work that the commission has covered this past year, and there's a lot there. And again, we couldn't. I can say we couldn't do it without staff, but really staff has been has covered has done the heavy lifting on nearly all of these items, and we appreciate staff's effort and focus and commitment on this. And it's a lot of work for staff to support a commission. We appreciate that.
This is true.
But it's a significant endeavor for the city. It's a significant financial commitment from the city as well. Next slide, please. So now changing formats a little bit. There's a couple slides here that review our specific work plan accomplishments, and these are summaries of the input that was provided by the ad hocs for what's normally our annual report of the work plans. In this case, it's kind of a status update on the work plan, if it's a midpoint or point within our work plan cycle. The commission currently has 7 ad hocs and 7 work plan items, one associated with each ad hoc. The master plan ad hoc was focused on CIPs. We talked about this already. The Rec Wellness Center ad hoc has significantly partnered with the Friends of the Rec Wellness Center, and an LOI has been drafted, allowing the Friends group to move forward. And there was a community meeting in January that just discussed the proposed center potential locations, and so it's great to see progress on that. Anything I'm missing there, Ann?
So,
thank you. BCCP, as mentioned, is working with staff to resume the development of the draft plan, and we're working to It's a significant effort. It's been a fair amount of time since the plan development began, and so it's something you need to review things to see what's in date or what's still applicable and what may no longer be applicable and what needs to be added and define the scope of what's realistic to pursue within a time frame and budget constraints.
And that was a new ad hoc added, I think, last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that relies, it relies on a lot of staff support and working with staff to review things. It's work. Nature preserve access policy is working, as mentioned, to review the bicycle and pedestrian access at our OSPs, urban space preserves, and then also all finishing up with some council directives to identify areas where we need new signage and bike racks. And as mentioned, a potential change was presented to payback. Next slide, please. So the park dedication ad hoc has been working from a list of 7 potential sites and working with staff to prioritize what we can move forward with, and we'll be presenting to the full commission soon on that. And then the Towerwell site updates, which were previously discussed or mentioned, also includes some of the infrastructure is added to nicen up the place, benches, signage, walkways, etc. And we're looking forward to a ribbon cutting ceremony next month, hopefully. Well, thank you for staff for helping organize that. Playing fields and racket sports continues to working with staff to review the current reservation policies. We talked about the pickleball lines at Sherman Park and also the Palo Alto Pickleball Club presenting to the commission about how to support the community needs for pickleball, while also recognizing other competing priorities for the same real estate, the tennis and pickleball courts, or the racket courts, which is why we call it racket sports. And middle school athletics, a new ad hoc was created, and working with community members to on the future visioning for how to improve the program, reach it, and accessibility and success. And look forward to hearing from that ad hoc presenting to the commission as well. That's all I've got. Any questions? It's just other things I left off.
I'm just interested, where is this report gonna go? How is it gonna be used? Because there's some really good stuff in it, and there's some things that I'd like to see personally added. One in particular is the traffic garden, which was initiated by a student, so by youth, brought to the commission. And I believe that we connected them with the Friends of the Parks for some funding as well. And the staff worked very hard with the young woman who brought it. And I think it's a great model to call out in something like this of how the youth can get involved in governments and commissions and that kind of thing.
You know, maybe reaching out to the high school newspapers for a start to do a promo piece would be a good idea, and then Palo Alto Weekly as well. I think the student is a high school student at Gunn. She's graduating this year. The project, my understanding is the project plan is basically approved and moved forward, but won't be implemented until June. Until June, will be implemented in June?
Jan.
So perhaps if we get an article in the high school paper this year, and then I'll reach out to Palo Alto Weekly at the time of the when the work is open, or when it's after it's completed. That'd be great.
I know the transportation department too has already received request for utilizing the space once it's done. So I think it will be, I think we'll work with the transportation team and I can reach out to Nara as well.
And my thought is just that this commission and the staff has done an amazing amount of work over the past couple of years since COVID. And we're really lucky to have the staff support, especially when we keep losing people
Yeah.
at the very high level. And I think it's really important to celebrate those accomplishments and have a permanent record, which is why I think it's great the way it's put together, and maybe adding a couple of things would be.
Well, the records are public, right? But I guess the thing about it is the visibility of it. I mean, the one thing about these retreats is that we get to see kind of how much work the staff and the commission have done over the last 12 months or so, right? But we don't necessarily, I think, get all the visibility that should be out there. And I'm not sure how that can happen. I mean, I think the fact is we have, when the parks are, I'm sure all the commissions are just as important. Although I think a lot of the things we do are things that really benefit kind of the health and welfare, the community services department working with, I mean, I think there's a lot that's happening, and you don't really see that until you kind of have it.
See this.
Like you see this. And I mean, kudos to the staff, because I mean, we're working, see the animals on a daily, we see him a lot. Don't we?
I know.
I mean, it's like, there's a couple of him around, but he does it, as everyone else with Sarah and Kristen, you guys, you just, the amount of work and energy you guys put, we just like to see how can we get more visibility for like the community services department and what you guys do and what the commission does. And we don't always, we all get that little second mention, I guess, in the Palo Alto Weekly, and and we only meet once a month, but we as a commission probably meet a lot with staff 2 or 3 times a week, if not more, and that's pulling you guys away from, with already your limited staff, pulling you away from your job. So I think we want to try and, I think, have the commission be, how can we help you guys be, a lot, more, I mean, you're productive, but there's probably some of the low hanging fruit, I guess, that we could work on that can help. And we've done a lot of work with, just think about the ad hoc that I'm on and Ann's on, and some of the others. A lot of work that we do in the background and working with Adam and some of the other folks. But just how can we, I think, hopefully we get out of this retreat is, how can we as a commission really, without being too much of a pest or being too much in the way, really help you guys get your job and the visibility out there. I think that you guys well deserve. So.
Well, I'll first say thank you for that. We always appreciate the work that we do together, the staff and the commissioners. And I think this commission is unique in that it covers such a broad range of programs and services and CIPs. I mean, it's very vast, the topics that are brought to the commission and that you all help us with. So really appreciate that in our partnerships. And then also, I also appreciate you wanting to share with everyone all the great work that we do. I think that's awesome. So maybe as we go through the retreat today, maybe we could think about ways to do that. I know we have opportunities to share things with the council, either through the city manager's weekly briefing email to the council, or in city manager comments, or our council liaison can always share things as appropriate during announcements. So I think there's ways to get that out. There are always in the budget book, when it comes out, a list of accomplishments, but it's really buried in a very big budget book. So you have to, go and look for it. one of the things we used to do for a couple of years, we did a calendar.
Yeah.
Remember when we did that, Dan? And Jeff, we made a calendar that folks can hang on the wall, and it, each month is devoted to a different part of the community services department. At the very end is our list of accomplishments and things that we work on, and then we populate different special events on the calendar, so people have those. So we haven't brought that back. It went away like a lot of things during COVID. And, but that might be one fun way to share.
Yeah.
If we could bring that back.
If I could just piggyback on that, and your point that I can make comments, in council member updates. Your work is so new to me that I'm taking it all in, and it's this vast amount of information, I'm just digesting it.
Yeah.
So I'm not best equipped to highlight. For example, it would be inappropriate for me to speak to all of this, plus the prior many
Yeah.
slides
Right.
in my update, which is meant to be short. But I will certainly invite the chair and perhaps Director O'Kane to suggest to me 3 things that I might mention from the dais as highlights. I don't know if that puts a lot of pressure. You have 7 ad hocs, and every ad hoc, so we want our stuff mentioned, we want our stuff. But I would welcome your help in distilling down, if you would like something said at the dais about the accomplishments of the past year. If you could give me some highlights, I'd be happy to report out. You see what I'm saying? These are already highlights, but it's rather comprehensive. If you can give me a way to describe it, perhaps, in
3 or 4
succinct fashion,
Yeah,
I would welcome your notes.
Okay,
Cool.
yeah, that would be great.
that would be great.
And I was thinking, let me ask the question, would it be appropriate if we, the chair, vice chair, anyone, or I said, this would be a great thing for council member Lipcott Ames to share with the full council, even after this meeting?
Yes.
Like through the year,
For sure.
something big happens.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
Mhm.
definitely.
all right, so
We'll figure out how we
Yeah.
can do that.
And where can I see a list of who's on which ad hoc? Because there are some I'd like to follow up with. On the website.
It's on the
On the
website,
website,
but we,
On the park, on the Parks and Rec, webpage. So the one.
We also
Which-
have the.
which is gonna change today, right?
Yeah,
Well, right.
Yeah.
we also have a comprehensive spreadsheet.
Yeah.
If you
Yes.
want to dig deeper.
Um,
might want to wait until after today and see who's in what.
So I have certainly been lobbied by community members about pickleball.
Mhm.
And I am delighted to know that there is an ad hoc that is taking on this conversation. So I would love to, just have some
Anytime.
access.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Right. Any other?
Just one last thing, on the traffic garden, I think it's a great example of cross-departmental collaboration. I think the Office of Transportation certainly takes lead on this, but working with CSD and Public Works is a great example.
Yeah, I could not think of more. You are having a lot of stuff, I see, you're working 2 people's job, and at the same time, you're increasing activities. And I went to the World Culture in a day, it was fabulous, and I don't know how you put it together in such a short time. And, the pickleball for youth is tremendous too, I've attended, and also it really warms my heart. We have lost youth last 2 years when we're on the board, and you really get the support, starting parents training, etc. And I mentioned your name to the Chinese media last year. So it is tremendous work you guys been done. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Any other comments? From commissioners, okay. Moving on, well, a couple of other thoughts, I can't remember what they were now, but they'll circle back to me at some point in time. So the one thing I think, the duties, George mentioning that, some of the things that the priorities have somewhat changed. I think we go to the next slide. Yes. So looking at, Park and Recreation, I think it's important for us to kind of look at, to revisit, or the goals and duties of the Parks and Recreation Commission. I think we've talked a little bit about those right now. And some of the services that we provide. And whether or not, and I guess as we start to look at developing our work plan and talk more about the ad hocs and the liaisons, how can we frame those in line with what are the goals and objectives of the commission are? And also tie those into, we kind of work hand in hand with in defining what our priorities are that are in alignment with both what the city council's priorities are, which are, I think, are in lockstep with what the community services department priorities are. And we try and make sure that our priorities sort of fit those. So we'll take a look at those in a little bit deeper, as well. Next slide. So, I'm let's see, go back to. So looking at, some of the information that's in the commission committees handbook. Nothing has really changed. It says as far as the, items that tie in with the, us meeting and trying to work through the work plan. The work plan report is again trying to, is getting the feedback from the city council and also from the staff on how that all works together. In the committees, those are temporary in a way. The ad hocs are, as we've talked, is something that there's a start point and then there's an end point. And it's going to be more of a challenge for us this year to try and get done as much as we can. Until we actually started to work on what our accomplishments and gathering all the information from the various ad hoc and what kind of work we've done over the year. It was surprising how much we have actually been able to accomplish. All of us have to, we meet on a weekly basis, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week with staff and building on those on the ad hocs. I have to say that maybe not as much time in our role as liaison. So that's something I think we're going to spend some time talking through as we go through this meeting today, whether or not, I mean, we had a long list of liaisons in a very short list of ad hocs. And, did we really spend as much time in our liaison roles as we did with the ad hoc? And maybe that's the way it's always been.
No, I think it's kind of by design. The ad hocs are, as you mentioned,
they're working.
They're temporary and they're temporary by requirement. The Brown Act for a permanent committee, it would be subject to Brown Act guidelines since it isn't following Brown Act. It is a temporary committee created for a specific purpose for a specified period of time, and the ad hocs are intended to be focused on a specific project and with that in mind to meet regularly and work on things. Where the liaisons they're more buckets to catch things that fall into the appropriate area of coverage. And so there's a point person for the commission when somebody wants to talk about dog parks, or if somebody's interested in or urban forestry when an issue comes up. It isn't, the liaison roles aren't something that there's a specific need to be meeting or doing something on a regular basis. There may be more of a check-in. I mean, this is my understanding the philosophy behind creating these roles. But they're available, there may be a staff liaison to check in with to see if there's anything that should be of importance that should be brought to the commission, either as a comment or potentially as a agenda item. But they're not necessarily someone that should be active every month or even every few months.
Yeah, but I guess in looking at in the last year or the year before that, were there any of those liaisons that actually did in fact morph back into ad hocs?
Chair, Commissioner Brown.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I have a comment on this. I think because our ad hocs, for whatever reason, the project has become so large in nature or they've extended over multiple years, a lot of our ad hocs no longer really fit the legal definition of an ad hoc committee anymore. I mean, I think a lot of these are more standing committees, which would be subject to Brown Act. And also a lot of our ad hocs in this last year, they didn't come report back to the full commission. And so they're doing things without the benefit of the public being apprised of what's being accomplished. Yes, we have the work plan, but we didn't have any sort of regular reports or check back-ins. There are a few that come to mind where there just really wasn't a lot of reporting back. And I don't think that's in the spirit of what a real ad hoc committee's purpose is. It's supposed to be all done in the public. So I think some of these larger buckets that are going to be multi-year in nature we should reevaluate if those are really fitting the definition of an ad hoc committee. And then for the liaisons, I think what Vice Chair Greenfield's saying about them being sort of a point person, they've just grown to these 2 or 3 liaisons, and as projects come up, they sort of feel the need to take on those actions, but they don't have a specified work plan. And so I get wanting to have a point person for the liaisons, and I think that's fine, but they're not crafting a work plan mid-year. I think that was what council wanted when they wanted the work plan to be created, is they wanted a sense of what the commission was working on. So I understand those as being functioned as point people, but I really think we need to look at our ad hocs and are they really ad hocs anymore? Because I think several of them are not.
I'd like to comment on that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the comment, but I don't agree that they are not ad hocs. I believe it's important to develop the ad hocs with a specific focus and a specific goal in mind that is targeted for the time period, which is typically a year. I do agree with the comment that it's a problem that the ad hocs have not been reporting to the commission. And that's something I've discussed with the chair and the staff, and I think it's important to prioritize and to make sure that they happen. With that said, the ad hocs do report back to the commission frequently in meetings during the agenda item with ad hoc updates. And so the commission, I don't think the commission is left completely in the dark on what's happening, but the ad hoc, it's not appropriate for an ad hoc to make a decision on behalf of the commission. That should be done when reporting to the commission. And I do agree that the ad hocs should be presenting to the commission more.
But it should be on our monthly meetings, where you've got basically almost 4 weeks between the end of one meeting and the beginning of another meeting. And doing that time frame, there has probably been, I don't know, depending on the ad hoc you're on, maybe 2 or 3. If the ad hocs are meeting on a weekly basis, then they're actually building on that the items that are leading towards the completion of the work plan at the end of that calendar year. So there really should be, and we've not had enough, I guess, feedback from the ad hocs during our PRC meetings, and maybe we just need to come up with a better way or framework that we, I mean, like, during our regular commission meeting, we're asking each commissioner to provide feedback, comments to whatever the agenda item is. Then each commission ad hoc should be reporting on exactly what their accomplishments have been for the last 3 weeks, or since the last ad hoc meetings, since the last PRC meeting.
That's part of it, but I think it's important you remember the distinction between an agenda item and an ad hoc report. With the ad hoc reports, it's just it's one way. It's the ad hoc presenting information to the commission, but it's not agenda.
Well, I mean, is it really,
It's
is it
not-
really one way though?
No, well, it's not agendized for discussion.
Right.
And so it's not a place in general for the commission to provide feedback on the work of the ad hoc. They can ask questions and perhaps make a suggestion for something they're interested in, but it's not agendized. And so it's important for the ad hocs to come back to the commission with as agendized items so that the commission can speak freely and contribute.
Right, if there
Well,
is a special
Let
interest.
me jump in. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, I just completely agree that it should be agendized so the public has information that item is going to be discussed, and that is their time to provide feedback and get an update. I mean, they can tune into a meeting every single week, but I think it is important to make sure it's agendized regularly, every quarter, or at least twice within the year, for each of the committees. And I just want to add that I did ask staff to ask the city attorney's office about the ad hoc committees, because I think a really good example is the Recreation Wellness Center. That's a multi-year project. And while you can have a specific goal for a year, if the composition of the committee is not changing drastically, the goal is sort of carrying over as the same, that I really think is stretching the limits of what an ad hoc committee is. And so then therefore those meetings should really be open to the public, so that people can attend. And I think there's quite a few examples of our ad hoc committees where the goal statement is not necessarily something that's going to fit within 1 year, and it gets rolled over year to year. And you can see in our previous work plans. And so I just don't want any of the work done by this commission to be challenged because we weren't following the proper process. And so that's where I'm coming from, is I want to make sure that we are being transparent and including the public in all of these conversations, and making sure that we're doing things the right way.
Michelle? Good. Definitely. So I think, well, maybe we'll get into more detail about it, but I guess on the ad hoc feedback during a commission meeting, there is time, I guess, when or tell me if I'm going down the wrong trail here, but that as an ad hoc does present kind of an update on what's happening with their particular ad hoc. Is there a time where each commissioners could ask for clarification of it, presume, right? But that's not the same thing as.
Some of the ad hocs, there's so much work, but there is generally not a lot of change.
Right.
We're reviewing, continue to go, maybe we do a site visit with staff, things like that. But overall, the time that we present is when it's on the agenda, and that's when you get the full picture of what the ad hoc and staff have been working on. Now, we should do those short updates on what we're working on, but I think that the outcomes are really often not there until the very end of the work of this ad hoc. So I think that maybe we need to be a little more diligent about providing a little update every time and provide an opportunity for other commissioners to ask questions. But I'm not sure we want to have a lot of presentations.
No, I agree. And I think it's like, I would think that, if you're saying that this is the clock starts from today, that we, define what the ad hocs are and who's assigned to those ad hocs. That's the clock starts ticking in April, right?
I also think.
And then by no, I don't know, December, January, at what point in time are you 50% done or 60% done before it gets presented to the commission, to the council in April or whatever? You would think that the majority of those ad hocs, if they have in fact been defined as ad hocs that have that's temporary, there's an end point at some point in time. Most of them by month 10 or 11 should be close to 80 to 90% done. Unless there's something else that kind of floated into that as a result of additional.
I generally agree with some ad hocs, you need a lot of stuff done, and we've had a lot of changes with stuff. And that kind of delayed some of the work that we tried to do because they need to find information and bring it back. And so sometimes just that delays things and we need to recognize that. Anyway,
No, that's a good point. Bishop.
I just was remembering a time a couple of years ago when we changed the the liaison and the ad hoc reports to earlier in the agenda. So that some of us weren't so tired at the end of the meeting that we just did a quick summary.
Right.
And so then somehow that got changed back, and I don't know whether it's a Brown Act rule about how the agenda has to be a particular way, but it seemed to work for a while, so.
Right.
You know.
It's discretionary.
Yeah.
Whatever the chair wants to do.
Yes.
Well, I'll just weigh in on the ad hocs, I guess. So we used to actually have a much longer list of ad hoc groups, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and we.
That was before,
Reduced
and you still had liaisons, or you did?
Yes.
Did we, yeah,
Okay.
so we have reduced it. I will say I agree that some of the ad hocs, no, I can't find it, I do think are not, an example is master plan review. That is almost just a group that's reviewing the master plan with staff, but there isn't an end date, there
Right.
isn't a primary goal.
Is that really an ad hoc?
Right, and so I think that's another, or that is an example
Right.
of where it probably doesn't fit into ad hoc.
So would you put it as a standing committee?
Well, then, if it's a standing committee, then you have to be doing this,
Oh,
so
Yeah.
with an agenda and, where I think ad hocs are most useful, and I'm gonna use pick one, middle school athletics, like that was, it's a specific task to review middle school athletics. And come up with a recommendation that we can bring back to the city council to say this should be our middle school athletic. This is what we recommend for middle school athletic program. That's what's most helpful, I think, to us and the city council when we start doing ad hocs that are just to. I think some can get a little bit too into operations of how we operate things within the community services department, where there isn't a specific task that we're trying to accomplish. Those I don't think are necessarily a good use of commissioner time and staff time. So.
Yeah. So when you look at, and maybe we're jumping ahead here, but when you look at like, let's say playing fields and racket courts. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be underneath that, right?
Mhm.
That could be the soccer fields, I mean, it's a whole project in itself, looking at synthetic fields versus, grass fields, right? Baseball fields and, now pickleball. So because that's almost like a category, but there's a lot of subcategories underneath that. So do we break that down into a bucket that can be measured?
Well, that's why it's important to have a clearly defined task for the ad hoc, which is specified in the work plan. It's not like an open agenda for anything related to playing fields and racket courts. It's specific task based.
Within.
Otherwise it is a standing.
I might recommend that once we establish, and I think we have jumped ahead a little bit, but once we establish the ad hoc committees, those committees meet separately with staff and come up with a particular, okay, I'll use field and racket courts. No, I don't mean, and I'm not putting you on the spot, Adam, but is there a particular task that you need the ad hoc assistance with this year that will have an outcome? And what is that, and when would it be completed?
You have a couple of them.
Instead of, right, but instead of like,
Yeah, no, I agree.
everything related to playing fields and racquet courts.
It
It's
doesn't,
not-
this is,
yeah.
yeah,
That would be, and
that
then,
to me would be, that to me makes a lot.
and then the ad hocs could come to a commission meeting and report, this is what our ad hoc task action work is for this calendar year.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it could be helpful for the commission in conjunction with staff to and agree on some general guidelines as well. I think one suggestion I have is that an ad hoc should present to the commission on, as an agenda, with an agenda item, a minimum, at least every 6 months. And it might not be complete, but it's a status update and it's a checkpoint.
You mean have that as an agenda?
As an agenda item, so it's fully agendized, so the commission can discuss it freely and openly, it's on the public record. It's an opportunity for community feedback on it. I think going dark for a period, I think I'd suggest it as a guideline, unless there's a good reason not to, like something's happening and something's about to
Yeah,
change.
that makes a lot more sense, like if you're talking about the policy, we're talking courts policies, right? That has a start point, and has to be an end point, and at some point in time, that's that's on the agenda, and then the respective parties can come and offer their feedback to it.
And another suggestion is to target to have 3 agenda items per meeting. There's going to be cases where there might be a super long one, but I think we had a number of meetings with this 2 agenda items, and it was an opportunity to kind of stretch our lungs a little bit extra on some items. But I think if we're looking to try and meet this and have each ad hoc present every 6 months, then we're going to need 3 agenda items each month, and it might also be a way to push ad hocs to present what they have. What things aren't complete, but let's get this included and let's get a status update.
In looking at the third point there as ad hoc committees where we said it's temporary and it's advisory. So temporary meaning that it can be done within that majority of the action can be done within that calendar year.
Well, for an ad hoc committee is created for a specific task, right? And that task needs to be articulated for it to qualify as a committee that is not subject to the Brown Act.
Right.
And so there's a task and there's a time.
But it isn't necessarily, are you saying it doesn't necessarily have to be completed within that year?
The goal is
to try.
The goal is to define a task that can be created, that can be completed in the year or whatever the period is for the ad hoc. It doesn't always happen.
Right.
But that doesn't, and so then if it doesn't happen, then you can consider, is there a focus for a group that can to work on this task or this task along with something else, or how can a committee be created to look at this specific task? And as Commissioner Brown pointed out, getting a refresh, a shuffling of some of the people on the ad hoc is a best practice as well.
However, if that ad hoc, let's say, continues over into the next year where it's maybe, I mean, I think we have one example of that, the BCCP, right? That is an ad hoc, but your work is almost finished. So it would be, well, maybe that's not a good. Your work is not, but again, that's one that extends over into the next year. So with the same, so is that an example where the same ad hoc members stay on that ad hoc that doesn't work?
They could, but getting new people on could be helpful as well. There are certainly multi-year projects that are addressed by ad hocs, but the focus needs to be to define a bite, a piece of the puzzle, part of the pie, whatever analogy works best for you, and say, we're working on this part this year, or we're working on this part the next year, and to, in the case of VCCP, it's part of it is scoping to try and figure out what are we doing, what can we try to do, and what is reasonable to try to define.
Any other comments? I think we've kind of jumped ahead a little bit on that one, but I think it kind of steps the framework for where we need to. Should be the 130s. Let's go on for a little bit more. Next slide, please. So we have several documents that guide the Parks and Recreation Commission with the city master plan sort of being our guiding light. The recreation master plan has been highly discussed since the group met last year and continues to meet. And these are just some of the various plans that sort of guide us to the point of where that we use. Any thoughts or comments? Really skills?
And then the work we do should be in alignment with the plans.
Should be what?
It should be in alignment with these plans.
Yeah.
Is there a document that would go here in this, we're looking at this Park and Recreation Commission roadmap that talks about what the commission thinks about or that deals with people and programming as well as all the lists here? Because it feels like when I look at this, that this is a lot about open space and a lot about environmental stuff and sustainability, which is all really, really important. But I think what also is important is serving the community in terms of programs that we would either like to see, the diversity of the programs, whether we're serving all of the community and all of that. And I don't know.
But do you think that any of what you just said?
Parks, trails, open space and recreation master plan
Yeah.
includes a lot of.
I know.
Yeah.
And the city master plan.
And yeah, both. So it's in there,
Just haven't built. Yeah.
But it's a good question for staff. Is there another plan that touches on that we should be?
No, I don't. It's all contained in that part.
I know it's all in the master plan, but when I look at this from a visual perspective, it feels like we're making kind of short trips for programs that affect people. And
I think
maybe it's just the way I'm looking at it.
one way to look at this is sort of from a cross-departmental view in terms of the way the city staff is structured. I think recreation services are pretty core under community services department and not really staff can correct me, but not split across the other departments so much as the more environmental related areas of our purview, which do rely on the Office of Transportation, which do rely on Public Works Department, et cetera. I think that's reflected in these master plans, which are related to other departments.
so the master plans have policies mostly, right? But, and some suggested programming. Some of those things are being implemented, others may not be or may not be yet implemented. And some have already found their way into other city policies like ordinances or programming that is actually happening. I'm not sure we need it here. I recognize that these things exist. I just don't know that this is the place to consider them.
And it may not be.
Yeah, because, there's always more ordinances that take a piece out of the master plan or the general plan or any of these and looks at how do we do this the best we can. And you worked on some of them and I worked on some of them, right? So, but I think essentially the basis for them are in these plans. Even if later they took a little bit of a different interpretation or, the work has been done.
I can add also that, we do have a new trying to think of her working title, Accessibility and Inclusion Coordinator, who is doing a lot of work on, ensuring that people have access to our programs, not like physical ADA access into the buildings, but programming and working with the Magical Bridge Foundation. So once she's able to develop a plan, that would be, I think, a good addition here. So that
So it wouldn't fit into any one of the,
it would be separate.
it would be separate from this.
And that comes to us to review.
We could certainly have her do a presentation
Oh, yeah.
when
that'd be
that
good.
time comes.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I don't know the timing of that.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, next slide, please. So, something before that. Okay. All right, yeah, well, no, I thought that my slides might be totally other, but,
That's like one of them.
oh, yeah. All right, turn something else, that's it. So this is just sort of, just showing, there's, in looking at the city council priorities, there was no change from the one in 2024.
Just a slight
Slight
tweaking of
change.
words. So slight, I can't point it out for you.
Sorry. So we have, implementing, implementing housing strategies, the social and economic balance, right? And then, what is it, do you know this? No. I looked at it, well, didn't see that much of a change, but, the other side of it, just looking at a Park and Rec Commission priorities, and they have pretty much tried to stay in lockstep with the city councils as well as the staff, priorities. And so we do want to take another peek at our, PRC priorities and see if there's any need to make any modifications or change to those. We go to the next slide.
Before you move, I think it's important to note that basically two of the city council's priorities apply to areas of purview for the Parks and Rec Commission, and two don't. Essentially, it's really two priorities that we're looking to be in alignment with. And that's the second and fourth ones: the climate action, adaptation, and natural environmental protection, and public safety, wellness, and belonging. The housing and economic development priorities don't really apply to us.
Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, could I just read the language difference so you
Sure.
know what it is?
Yeah.
Maybe for a bit of intentionality behind it. So of the two that retain, last year, the climate one read climate change and natural environment protection and adaptation. And this year, we've put climate action. That the point was made, we're not focusing on climate change per se. We're trying to take action in response to the change and adapt to the changes
Okay.
and focus on our environmental protection practices. Okay, so
But
that's
the language is the same.
subtle. It was, right, so it's now, instead of climate change and natural environment protection and adaptation, it's this. And it's just designed to be clear about what the actual actions we're trying to take are. And then the fourth one, used to read, community health, safety, wellness, and belonging. And we realized that public safety wasn't foregrounded enough in that. We had safety, but now we're saying public safety, which speaks to what our police and fire and emergency operations might do. Wellness, which speaks to health and wellness. And we had a significant discussion about how mental health and physical health are both subsumed under wellness. And being proactive as opposed to just responding when something is wrong. And then belonging is about, that sense of community and sense of not being the other, rather being a part of it all. So there's a lot to that fourth one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And some might argue that should have been broken out into five, because public safety is very different. It's a place of belonging, but maybe not. So anyway,
Good.
that's my explanation of what.
No,
changed
thank
in
you.
mine.
That makes a lot of sense. So it really says that the second and the fourth, and actually a little bit of the first do fall into kind of what our priorities should be wrapped up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chair, I would just say, I think all four of them are pertinent because it's really about the community that we're serving, and then the parks and amenities and open spaces that are meant to complement the entire community. So as the housing and economic development policies or priorities of the city change, I think they're all, it's good to look at them and just think of all four of them as we go forward selecting our priorities.
Good point, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Some
Yeah.
take more weight, say the wellness and belonging, and some less, maybe the housing aspects, because if we look into accessibility in terms of inclusion, low-income housing should have a park as well, and look into park dedication, how we're not squeezing the park out of overdevelopment.
But also making sure that you're looking at all of Palo Alto, not just different segments of the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
That everybody.
Agreed, yeah.
The other,
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely agree with that. I think not to discount all the council priorities or suggest that the commission doesn't think they're important, but I don't believe the commission specifically has purview regarding housing strategies and economic development. And so I think we shouldn't be working in a vacuum, and we shouldn't be ignoring these, but the other two priorities are the priorities.
why do you feel that housing strategies does kind of fall somewhat within?
Our plans, the plans that are listed here
Mhm.
include for creating enough parks for new developments. We already have it in the overall
plan.
policies. And we kind of rely on that, right? We rely on the fact that when there's a new development, they will have at least some park or pay fees that we can use to have parks and to sustain our parks. So it's, in essence, it's already exists in the city policies. I'm not sure it's our job to extract it and spread.
Well, when you're looking at things like, let's say, dog parks, for instance, do we?
It's in those plans.
Right, so does that fit within, would you not say that would not fit into the council priority number one, when you're looking at housing strategies? Or
No, it
you
fits
could- well,
into our, if I'm looking at our past, previous priorities, offer diverse recreation opportunities and promote community health and wellness. It fits into advance equity, access and inclusion. It probably the dog park specifically less into the biodiversity, but it fits pretty well into the first two priorities that we had last year, or this commission 2025 priorities, so fits into that.
I think it's fair to say that probably 2 and 4 are where the Parks and Rec Commission is most involved with.
Mhm.
But I do agree that there's supporting work that
Yeah,
CSD and the PRC does for 1 and 3. I'll use an example for 3. One of the things we do with our new special events work plan is identify places that we can have special events to increase economic vitality in certain areas of the city. So I think it's not direct, we're not working on economic development and retail vibrancy, but a lot of work we do can help support those council priorities. And same with number 1, no, we're not implementing housing strategies, but as those housing strategies get implemented, for example, San Antonio area plan that's being worked on with a lot of housing, it will be very important for us to be involved in ensuring that there's local parks for people to walk to. So I'm not sure.
And some of the amenities that you have in other parks
Yeah.
can be considered.
Right, so I don't know what, I don't wanna speak for Commissioner Brown at all, but, I don't think we can, we're saying, or I'm saying, yes, we're working on all of these priorities, but the work we do influences all of these priorities.
I think in a certain way, we're all kind of saying the same thing. I mean, in terms of the way the relationship to things, whether it's how hard to find it is. It's like.
Well, I think we go back to looking at when we start looking at whether or not the Parks and Rec priorities in their current form, are they still in alignment with both staff and council?
I just want to say, I don't mean to speak when I suggest we're all along speaking commonly. I don't mean to speak for Commissioner Brown or Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Next slide, please. No.
We could phrase our own priorities as in support of the council priorities, and then give a few of the more specific, I don't know.
Yeah, could you go to the next, next step?
I think that might be implicit and.
Yeah.
No,
I guess.
the one where,
Okay, never mind.
you
You're right.
don't have that
Don't need to complicate.
one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So here are our priorities that we've set for last year: optimize resources to offer diverse recreation opportunities and promote community health and wellness. That kind of falls into council priority number 4. We see that as putting any other council priority.
Well, council has the word belonging, would be nice to add it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I guess this is a question for staff. The first one has optimize resources to ... But is that our job, or who optimizes the resources? Or should we just say offer diverse recreation opportunities without optimized resources?
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, we came up with this. I don't remember if we, and maybe you can, Commissioner Brown, not remember, if we, last year, I don't think did we reshape any of our priorities? The year before, they were pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah, I think we
But-
did a little bit of wordsmithing. I don't know that there was a huge overhaul last year.
Yeah. I remember reviewing the YouTube from last year, and I didn't see a lot of energy spent there, so. So your question, Commissioner Kleinhoff, is whether or not
Should we just say
Optimize.
offer diverse recreation opportunities and promote community health, wellness, and belonging?
and remove the
Without the
optimizers.
optimization, which I'm not sure is our job. If you guys think it is, I'm totally happy to leave it in there. I just don't know.
But we can't do anything about it.
Right.
Well, we also can't specifically do anything about offering the recreation opportunities, so I think
Work to.
we're working with staff to provide input on how to potentially optimize resources to offer the rec opportunities. I'm interested in staff feedback on this. So.
I guess that kind of adds explanation. That's okay then. Thank you.
I think the words might be in there to help qualify that what it is that
Well, we know that
what's appropriate for us to be doing.
we know that as a Parks and Rec priority is that we want to be involved in providing or working with staff to provide diverse recreational opportunities and promote community health and wellness, right? We can't do that by ourselves, but that actually happens as a result of what ad hocs we're involved in, and
Yeah.
whether or not those ad hocs help with moving the goalpost towards
I think
supporting
optimize,
that for us.
I think optimized resources is helpful, in suggesting that recognizing that resources are limited. And not,
And that's kind of implied that you're working with staff too.
yeah, I think all these are, as I read through it.
I mean, you don't have,
I mean, I think that probably. I mean, because the commission is really advising on policy.
right,
Yeah.
So. Advanced policies. Or, I don't know.
Are we here also offering resources to say, bring, the sports department of Stanford for, different activities and or grants opportunities where you have vast connections. So we're also here to offer the resources, to the staff members for you to maximize. So,
I like Commissioner Kleinhouse's idea to incorporate belonging and
definitely.
based on what Councilmember
Yeah.
Lacott Hames, how she explained the wellness as being health as being part of
Yeah.
wellness. I think we could probably change health and wellness to wellness and belonging.
Commissioner Brown has her hand up. Chair.
oh, Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think optimized resources, I understand where we're coming from, where I think we were trying to be mindful of the resources of staffing at the time, but I do think it kind of reads as operational, and I think that's something we're trying to get away from. So I would be in favor of changing it to promote community health, wellness, and belonging through diverse recreation opportunities. Or something to that effect. That's just my suggestion.
That sounds good.
I think we all like that.
I think I would suggest, I agree with that. I think we could just omit health, since that's part of wellness.
It's health and wellness, or
So
just leave health.
promote community wellness and belonging through diverse recreation opportunities. I think it sounds good. So,
Sure, I don't have to do anything. Yeah,
Yeah, can you say that one more time?
is that, Mandy, do you want to say it or?
So you said promote community health and belonging through diverse recreation opportunities?
Wellness and belonging.
Wellness and belonging, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
okay.
Promote wellness and belonging through diverse recreation opportunities and period.
Yeah, community wellness and belonging.
Okay. Good. Moving right along.
I would prefer that we leave health in there.
I'm okay with that. It's not contradictory, might as well.
I'm just following council's lead with their priority, which used to include health but
Okay.
go either way.
All right, advance equity, access and inclusion for programs, parks and open space. I think that's good. Okay. And then enhanced biodiversity, environmental sustainability, and climate change resilience. I'd strike, we take that out. No, just kidding.
We could, yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. So
So
unless you think,
should we also allow with council a bit to look into climate action? So we just not just stay there sitting in the room, but also taking actions. Say what we're looking to, whether it's safe and healthy to have synthetic turf or not, that is action, right?
I think for the things we do, it's not as much climate action as the climate adaptation part of what the city is proposing. Okay.
I would think it's both action and adaptation. Say that the dark nights, it is action we're taking to try to look into.
that we're taking,
Yeah, we didn't do that.
yeah,
But we can support the council to,
Okay.
But it's not part of our program.
that's not,
Yeah,
yeah.
what we do is more on and the dark sky didn't come to us.
Okay.
Yeah. I know I was there when you were there.
Okay.
but-
okay,
So I think that it's more of a
adaptation.
adaptation and resilience, or just adaptation, because the action involves a lot of things that the city is doing. that is not our purview. I don't know what other people think. I'm happy to hear.
No,
everybody
I
else's.
think it's good the way it is, actually.
So we think that the word change should go out of there?
We could climate change adaptation instead of resilience, because the things we looked at are really like the horizontal levy. That's an adaptation. We looked at that.
Yes.
It's not resilience on,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think, and the other thing, we looked at a few other things that had to do more with adaptation, because our parks are right next to the bay, sea level rise is coming. So we looked at the adaptation piece more than we did on changing to electric, from gas to electric
Okay.
and things like that the city is doing, but it's not something we looked at.
Yeah, makes sense.
So as far as how it reads, are we enhancing climate change adaptation, or are we enhancing climate change resilience? I agree that action doesn't fit in with enhance.
It's both adaptation will
I like
increase
adaptation.
resilience, right? It's hand to hand in hand.
So let's change resilience to adaptation. Everyone's good with that?
I don't know what to listen.
I would think adaptation and resilience and wellness itself. A lot of
Isn't that same-
children have
same-
climate change anxieties, and that's
Let's think about that.
also climate change.
Adaptation is something you do. Resilience is providing flexibility. Both are good here. Choose one or both.
Oh,
We could have both.
I
All
mean,
right, let's move on to handbook.
Okay,
Or both.
all right,
All right,
next.
all right, next slide, please. Staff, do you want to take a 5-minute break first? 5 minutes?
Sure.
5-minute bio
I
break.
think it's one of the things I can do.
So next it should be, statutory.
Yeah. Next.
Just trying to be, are we on time? Are we moving?
What?
Are we moving in the right time?
So we're,
Do I need?
I'm not sure we'll be done by 3.
transition point is.
Because we're currently reviewing and updating current priorities. We're on item number 3 of the agenda, which we still have assigned parks and recreation ad hoc committee and liaison roles for 30 minutes, number 4, and then 5, review and update current work plan.
So we're on 3 right now.
We're on 3.
Well,
However, I think
Yeah.
what I've heard is, to me, it kind of sounds like we're also doing a bit of 5.
which you've already started.
Yeah.
So it might be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so far, there's been no one in the Zoom or anything, so no need to even worry about public comment,
Okay,
but
I don't have to say it.
yeah.
Unless someone pops in. then-
But, if someone does pop in and have their hand raised,
Okay.
I'll just let you know.
You will.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Okay.
It would make a lot more sense to the trans run through the end of the year. It's really not what we did. In my term,
Yeah.
that's really done last time.
No,
Yeah.
good stretch.
Yes.
5 minutes wasn't good.
My granddaughter's birthday today. Well, that's Sullivan, but she's.
Tuesday before
At dinner?
No, well.
And then.
Yeah, my birthday.
Also, we're looking to, should be our priorities.
Oh, see.
Doesn't make any sense to be priorities.
Yeah, the other one's
Priorities in the
Yeah.
two and,
And so it might make a lot more sense to still in terms through the end of the year.
Really close
Yeah, yeah.
in age, that's right. They
So I know what
like,
you're mean.
yep.
Also,
Oh, the mic, yeah, maybe
It should be on the staff priorities proposed fiscal year 26 CIPs. Thank you. Okay. Ready to get started? You good? Okay, great. We're going to move to, staff priorities proposed fiscal year 26 CIPs.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the list you see in, before you is what was presented in January. So all of these items will be moving forward as the proposed, fiscal year 26 CIPs. I don't think we need to spend, we've spent, a lot of time in December as well as January on these. And then if you can advance to the next, I think there's a few slides out, possibly out of order.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, so priority projects, and objectives for staff is the turf study that council member Liv Haynes spoke to, the contract, the award of the contract is scheduled for April 21st, city council meeting. And for awarding that contract, and so that work will then begin after that. Finalizing long-term partnership agreement with the First Tee, as well as continuing to offer diverse programs to meet and enhance the needs of the community. Our compliance, of course, with the mitigations and monitoring, and then executing that long list of CIP projects. In addition.
Can you talk?
Sure.
I don't know if you, on the, finalizing the long-term partnership agreement with First Tee. Where are we with that?
I believe in May, we are planning to have a full golf update, so I don't know if we, want to speak to that, because the interim agreement is already in place, and so we're working towards finalizing the terms for the.
So that's the second agreement.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then is around that, is there anything about that second deck study that is gonna come to light at all?
Yes.
So we've reviewed the draft study, and provided comments, and we need to get back in contract to make those updates. So we'll have more to come again in the May update for golf, but yes, we are moving forward on that as well.
Great, and speaking of golf, if I can, is the compliance with the mitigation requirements, those are specific to golf, or are there other mitigation requirements?
Correct, that's the golf course.
So should we put the word golf in there?
I think.
Or there are others?
The floodgate.
Oh, okay.
And some of the other items, for example, is Esther Clark. Right, we are doing additional plantings after the removal of the eucalyptus that was completed. So some of those are kind of all encompassing.
Thank you.
In terms of staff recruitments, Adam, along with many others, are hiring a bunch of recreation programs for hourlies for the summer. So middle school athletics, field reservation support. As you all are aware, our assistant director for open space, parks and golf. We do have great news in terms of the recreation coordinator position, that the role that Javad was filling, an offer has been accepted, and that person will be starting in a few weeks, early May. So exciting news there. And then public works coordinator role will be in recruiting soon, along with a park ranger for Baylands and a park maintenance person. So in terms of staffing, we're, again, our priorities are staff retention, professional development, and succession planning. Those were also all of our priorities for last year.
Well, that's kind of nervous making.
Sorry,
Succession.
Turkey's right there. Right there.
Oh,
Sorry, guys.
Watch
Tur-
the light.
Turkey just popped up and threw me off for a second. It's like a shiny object. It threw me off for a minute. Sorry.
I'll be
my turkey call.
Offering early Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay. Yeah, so, go ahead.
I have a question about the public works
Yes.
coordinator. Is that somebody who works for both departments?
No, that's currently a role that is been filled by Jeanette Sierna. She works in the parks office, but also assists us with all of the reoccurring CIPs and other projects. So she sometimes is project managing. She project managed Cameron Park, for example, the playground replacement project, the court resurfacing, and assist with procurement.
So given that many of the projects are exempt from statewide, so there's not a lot of mitigation requirements, there may be best practices that we have. How do we make sure that, that the environment is protected? We've seen some cases where things just happen, right? Either without a full permitting from from anyone, or just sort of accidents, I would say.
I think it's really one, building those interdepartmental relationships and having those ongoing meetings. So we meet monthly with the Public Works Engineering team, which serves a big role in assisting with all of our large CIP projects. That division also not only has some of the street projects, so it's really just coordinating and meeting with our other departments and making sure we're all in alignment.
So that's like
Go ahead.
between the rangers and you and this coordinator, or like who's doing it?
I think it's project dependent. For example, right now, last month, you received an update for a Rasadero project that's with utilities, and Mike Warner, as well as myself, are looped in on all kind of the look ahead calendars for what type of work's being conducted. We're invited to those meetings. Same with, for example, the Joint Interceptor Sewer, that project that was discussed, I believe, the month before. And we've been working in close coordination with them. So
that's not I just wasn't sure what this job was. So thank you.
So yeah, I do see as sort of, you do work with different departments. I wonder this coordinator to be recruited or is it current, somebody's already in the job?
Jeanette is in the role currently, and she actually is going to be moving to the field as one of our retirements took place, and she'll be, she just accepted the position for a field inspector.
Yeah, I'm wondering if other working with other departments, say the traffic guard, and you work with the transportation department, right? So is this coordinator have a multi-functional role, just coordinating inter-department kind of works in?
It's really, this position supports capital improvement projects.
Okay, so the bigger projects, so not the smaller.
Big and small.
Yeah, like
And
traffic
they can
guard.
be small too.
Yeah, So I'm wondering if this is a good time to bring up my suggestion, the shadow, which you need to work with the traffic department, like the traffic guard.
Mhm.
How do you manage when there is such a small, you need so many people, it's only you, that's it. No.
It's hard.
I know you.
That's why they- that's why they get-
Yeah.
That's why they get paid the big.
That's why they get no sleep.
And what, I mean, our commission isn't involved operationally. The reason this is, information is given to us or we requested previously is so we have an understanding of what resources staff has to work with. You know,
Right.
And this is more of a, insight into limitations or realistic resources. And there's probably other, staff, recruitments that are directly involved with what the commission does from other departments as well, landscape architect.
Correct. Right, Public Works Engineering,
Jensen.
correct, Peter Jensen, left the city, and so therefore, their capacity is now,
Is his position?
that is not listed. These are, specifically CSD,
Okay,
but that's a good point to bring up.
Are there any other key positions in other departments that would influence the overall bandwidth of projects that we might be looking to take on?
Well, Public Works Engineering is always, I mean, balancing multiple projects, not just CSD projects. So, you know, from the public safety building size to roads and
restaurants.
parks, restrooms.
Mm.
So they have, you know, schedule their work on a 5-year timeframe.
And they're working with a lot of other departments as well, right? So
Probably with every.
we have to kind of look at what the priorities that you guys have established in CIP, but you're also dependent on a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of coordination that we assume happens between you.
Correct, so staff met with Public Works Engineering staff to collaborate on the 5-year plan. So the proposal that will be going to the finance committee and ultimately council is in alignment with all departments.
Okay.
My only comment on the priority projects, we always look at projects, and because of that, we don't have a lot of the enhancement unless it's in some other project purview, like the horizontal levy has an environmental and biodiversity enhancement in it, but most projects don't. And so it can be mitigation sometimes, but don't actually have projects that would intentionally look at how do we enhance biodiversity, for example. So I'm just thinking we should have something like that. Not sure what yet, but I'm thinking about it.
Is the CIP list easy to pull up quickly so we can just look at it?
Yeah,
Just
that's a good
to
idea,
refresh.
It's just the slide we had previously.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, thanks. There's a lot more meat in it, meat here for us to digest.
Yeah.
For the dog replacement. The one over here, the Rhonda Lake dog replacement.
Oh, Rhonda, so that's, are you asking for an update or?
Yeah, just a
on-
quick, quick completion bit.
Well, it was actually scheduled for this year and it's a rollover.
To that too.
And what improvements are still on the list for Ramos?
Ramos, I believe there's site amenities that we're still needing to, the playground is just opened as of 2 days ago, which is very exciting, but we have to still come back and do a few site amenities updates.
Thank you.
Very good.
Where did the, pool, lengthening
Reconnoiter.
end up, or the starting blocks? Did that get dropped out of the CIP, or am I remembering it?
No,
Starting blocks or the pool lengthening?
Both.
I tried. I don't know if the pool lengthening is
I don't believe
It's a
that's
thing.
within there. I believe,
big.
yeah, it's,
Project.
I believe the starting blocks are within the 5-year plan, in the proposed plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Regarding the, excuse me, regarding the eucalyptus tree removal,
Mhm.
is there any, is that plan fully baked and defined? Is there any opportunity for a review of that and input in terms of what trees will be removed, will be planting?
I'd have to check with the urban forestry team on that question and get back to you. I know we've already identified trees that's specifically in multiple preserves, so within foothills, within Arasadero, as well as Esther Clark. Esther Clark was completed this fiscal year, and we're also going after a grant, which we're waiting to hear back about. And this is in alignment with fire, urban forestry, as well as the CSD team.
And who has lead on that? Is it urban forestry?
So,
Who has lead on this?
oh,
Is it-
I think it's CSD, but
CSD,
it's, I don't know.
Just FYI, for the Arastradero and Foothill, they did a mitigated negative declaration that identified trees to be removed, and had some level of mitigation. But later, because of fire concerns, any eucalyptus removal is basically exempt from CEQA. In Esther Clark, the neighbors, when they realized that so many large trees were removed, they were very upset, and staff was going to plant trees and put some acorns. And so I think, if they correct me if I'm wrong, that grassroots ecology is working on it. Also, one of the neighbors offered to provide water for trees if staff chooses to plant trees. So just keep that in mind. I think that Steve was in contact with that neighbor.
correct. And we have one of our assistant rangers is, and I believe I noted this within the departmental report at a previous meeting, but there's planting plan that's scheduled, and one specific assistant ranger is taking care of the care of those trees. We have worked with grassroots ecology, you're correct, to plant some seedlings. And I'm happy to continue to give Parks and Rec updates as it progresses.
Please, and also if you can discuss with, maybe matchmake grassroots ecology with that neighbor. He actually wrote a letter to us, right? So, and if he's willing to provide water to support the trees, we really should take advantage of that.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Moving on to business item 4.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Sorry.
Sorry.
With an acknowledgement that I am new, and so I am still learning the way in which the department is organized, CSD, and the various things, Parks and Rec is taking on. I'm looking at the proposed CIPs for FY '26, and I'm seeing them fall only into a piece of what, like, I'm not seeing the recreation piece. And I'm wondering if I'm reading it wrong.
The arts and sciences pieces are not in this captured here specifically because we pulled those out as they're not the purview of Parks and Rec Commission.
Yeah.
Um,
What about Coverly though? As a like a community center?
hmm,
What about anything related to short-term issues with Coverly? Is that something that,
It's are these just,
these are proposed fiscal year.
are these ones that CSD manages or that
Yes.
Public Works manages?
This is everything that is, it's full.
Yeah, so you're right, we don't capture that or things like Lucy Stern Community Center roof replacement and
yeah,
things like that, which it's probably an oversight that has carried over year to year.
the reason I'm raising it, if it's appropriate for me to share from the last Coverly ad hoc? No? Yeah.
Sure.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, this is a Brown Act publicly noticed meeting, so information can be shared and a discussion. This may or may not be the right place to do it. It might be at the end.
My understanding of the question is the ad hoc meeting is not a Book Brown Act meeting.
Right.
So were you asking if you can share an outcome from that meeting?
Could I just talk with you offline briefly?
Sure.
Okay.
It's not whether it's here, it's whether that information can be shared.
No, but it can be shared at this meeting.
No, whether I'm allowed to share something.
Yeah, whether you're like, yeah, it might be better, it'd be better, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else in your, yeah?
No, I think
Any other questions for staff? Anybody?
I guess I can bring the shadow here and out.
We can start there. All right, that's
Yeah,
it.
the one thing, and I'll say it again, because I have already, is how do we include in our projects things that are not CIP? How do, or enhancement projects that are, I'm trying to think about how to do that.
But would that be included more, as an possible ad hoc?
Possibly, yes,
Yeah.
we could decide to do an ad hoc that looks at a
Right.
piece of it and,
Right,
and that may be the best place, yes,
yeah,
thank you.
that might be the best. place.
But if it's something that doesn't have budget, or something that requires budget and doesn't have budget, then
Well,
staff is limited what they can do, so we need to be careful.
well, I think it's up to staff, if you come up with something that appears to be a good candidate for the ad hoc, it's really up to staff to say, does that fit within your CIP for 26? It might blur into any one of these. If not, then you have to let us know, right? Because you can't very easily complete an ad hoc unless the CS,
Right, okay, well, let's discuss this when we talk about the ad hoc.
which we're going to jump into right now.
Okay.
Timing.
Yeah,
Good timing. Okay, can you go to you jump to the slide that has the current ad hoc committee and list of roles existing? You go down. Oh, yeah. So this is what, this is our current, ad hoc, committee and liaison roles are as they exist today. And so we'll go through the, exercise of whether or not, the ad hocs that we had from, the current ad hocs really still should be ad hocs, or if we're gonna look at adding additional ones. So we didn't have an opportunity to, I think last time, the chair and the vice chair actually met with staff and kind of had you guys review the ad hoc list and kind of, we struck out those things that you thought were not ad hoc related, and we came back to the retreat, and we had a list of items that we thought would be good. And that's how we, again, that's how we started the conversation last year, so I think we can kind of move on to the next slide, which I think presents the next one.
You know,
Yeah.
suggest it makes, I think it might make more sense to review our work plan items before reviewing the ad hoc assignments.
It's the
Yeah.
slides up.
Yeah, it's the one. Let's go to the development.
I think we ought to review the work plan. Suggest, see if there's any changes we want to make to the work plan, if any items are completed, any items.
Yeah, well, there's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
That's a start.
I think we need to pull up the work plan.
Well, so
This slide.
just to, are you skipping item 4 on the agenda? Because it seems like we're going,
Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm just suggesting, I don't think we can confirm the ad hoc assignments until we, I don't think we have a work plan clarified.
well, last time I think we brought up, we came up with a list of the ad hoc and deleted those that we felt, from working with staff, deleted those that we felt were not ad hoc related, right? And then we looked at the existing list and then modified it from there. You're suggesting that maybe we look at the work plan that we had, which is actually, isn't this different? Because we generally do the work plan after we have assigned the ad hocs and the liaison.
But it's different this time since it's a continuation as opposed to working from scratch. I think it might be helpful to discuss the work plans. I don't know if these are action items where I think.
Well, the work plan would be an action.
4 and 5 should be action items. 4 and 5 should be action items, but we could start discussing 5 and then complete, then vote on 4 after we clarified what 4 is. I just don't, if we're gonna make changes to the work plan, I don't know why it doesn't, I'm not sure it makes sense to confirm who's gonna be working on the items on the work plan first. That's my opinion.
Well, what we did last year, I felt like that worked out well, but then not. I mean, stop trying to remember something from last year, which might not be a good idea, but,
It's like a chicken egg question, right? So we can,
so this is, we started off, we no longer have the bicycle, e-bike, access policy,
This slide actually isn't accurate. This is from the year
It's from
before.
the year
It didn't
before.
get updated.
Can we bring up the work plan? You have it?
the,
Current year.
are
actual
you
work.
talking about like accomplishments?
No,
Or the work plan, I printed, it's in attachment A.
okay.
We can bring that up. And, Commissioner Cribbs, I printed that out for you. You
Thank
have
you so
that.
much.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Pete. Nothing very well. Okay.
Okay, we go to the next page. Go to page, go to the first, priority, project 1. That'd be what page, yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's see that. Okay, so the first item on the project one is the master plan. So we talked a little bit about whether or not the work plan, or whether or not the master plan actually should be an ad hoc, so to go in line with what you had said earlier. Can the master plan, I mean, it's not something we can actually complete. I mean, it's an ongoing item.
Maybe it's a quarterly update to the commission at commission meetings. I mean.
Rather than it being an ad hoc. It wasn't always part of an ad hoc.
So if there's no ad hoc,
Then it's agendized on
so
who brings it up.
how was the work done on?
It's done through individual projects and efforts, so like, I mean, Coverly is in there. Inclusion and accessibility is in there,
So is this just staff work, or is there a commission role as you're envisioning it?
I'm not sure. I'm
trying to,
trying to think of a way that the commission can stay involved, but not be concerned about it being an ad hoc.
So, I mean, the way I see it is the master plan update is a major task, and the ad hoc's specific goal of the for a year isn't to update the master plan. It's carving off a chunk of it. I'm not there how this would get done without creating an ad hoc, and I know that the commission members before my time on the commission were intimately involved in developing the master plan and as an ad hoc working together with staff. I agree it's not working as it is right now but I'm not sure
how do you keep reviewing?
I'm not disagreeing that it's not working, but I'm not sure how removing an ad hoc solves the problem.
Commissioner Cripps, yeah.
We created the commission, or not the commission, but the ad hoc to review the master plan. What I remember was the master plan was started and approved in 2017. And it's 2025 now, and I think we felt like we should go back and celebrate the successes that we've had, because we've had a lot of them, even with COVID. But we should also look and see how things changed, and how do you deal with the housing that's coming and the need for parks, and how do you deal with the need for recreation? So what vehicle can we put together so that the commission and the staff can work together occasionally at a regular time period to make sure that we're either adhering to the master plan or, I don't know, making additions to it. That was the reason for it.
So maybe it's a quarterly update, with the staff in the commission working on what that presentation would look like.
Would there be a expectation that we publish another version after?
No,
No, okay. I mean, this.
Mandy wants to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner
Yeah.
Brown.
Thank you. I've been on this ad hoc since it started, and I think they're right. We wanted to take fresh eyes to it and look at how staff could utilize the master plan or how they were utilizing it in their projects. And so we've had lots of meetings with staff, and I think there was maybe a misunderstanding that staff wasn't utilizing the master plan. The master plan wasn't being followed, or it had changed. Which there may be some changes, but I don't think a subset of the Parks and Recreation Commission is the right group to be making changes to the master plan. It was sort of, we would need to do an update process that would have surveys. And I think that's beyond a specific ad hoc and not something that's going to get done in 1 year. That would be a larger initiative. And I think we have not had a lot of reports back on this, because in looking at the master plan, staff is doing a lot of things that are in the master plan. A lot of them are best practices. Some of them are things that other departments are meant to be doing. So I think it's also master plan and CIP. I think it would be right for this to just go back to a CIP focused ad hoc, and really the master plan be embedded in the other ad hocs. And if there is a plan to do an update to the master plan, that be a much larger initiative that doesn't live with just a small ad hoc. I know that's how it was done last time, but I think something that's a little bit more transparent at what a full commission level, and also something that would be dictated with the city council, because that takes significant budget and community outreach and staff time. I don't think that's something that we can just delegate to an ad hoc, having read through the master plan multiple times and knowing how staff works with it currently.
So the reason the ad hoc was created is because the master plan, the parks master plan itself calls out the plan should be reviewed every 5 years. And that's why it was created. And so it could be helpful to refer back to the master plan for specifically for that language to see what we need to do to follow the guidance that was called out in the master plan that was created. It can be a daunting task, or we can try to figure out what's appropriate under it.
Well, how was it done, let's say before? This is the first year that it had been defined as an ad hoc, right? So you had 2 years.
Second.
Oh, that's.
I'll say this, we went through, the ad hoc went through all the different implementation items
Right.
in the plan. And it was very hard for us to actually figure out, because some of them, like Amanda said, is not really in the purview of this department.
Right.
And so sometimes it wasn't clear which ones do and which ones don't. And we had changes in staff and they're in left, and so we didn't even know if some things were completed or not. And it was hard for the new staff to catch up to that and figure out what was done. And also there's always new things that come from the community and people want, and they're important, and they take precedence of things that maybe in the plan are not as much of a priority for the community. I think the skate park is an example to that. So the things that come from the community and pickleball for sure. So I think we need to look at it, but it's so much work. And given that there's things that we really should prioritize, I'm not sure that it needs to be more than what Amanda suggested, to look at the CAPs. And if we do need to look at it every 5 years or something, then maybe it's not an ad hoc. It's just that we were kind of not having the full information on, it's kind of more of a staff work, but I don't want to dump it on staff either, because it's a lot of work and they're busy and short stuff. So that's what I have to say about this.
So it sounds like it should be that we're all agreeing that it should not be an ad hoc. How it's communicated, we have to work with staff to figure out the best mechanism for that. So
I'm not agreeing it shouldn't be an ad hoc, but I'm agreeing that the whole process needs to be reviewed.
but it's not something we can,
And I'm comfortable with removing it for an ad hoc, for the time.
it's not to say that we can't at some point in time decide, well, maybe it's not working the way we envisioned it, and it becomes an ad hoc and we define what that's gonna look like. I mean, we've done it, it could be 2 or 3 months from now, it could be the next retreat, so.
I mean, I think it's an item that needs to be further investigated.
So,
Who wants to investigate?
yeah, okay, well,
No, it's a good question. What is the process moving forward for determining this is something that staff will look into and get back to us, or does the commission member need to be reviewing this with staff?
What about us agendizing review of the master plan with the full commission, and then we can have that conversation then as a group?
okay,
Does that?
I like that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna solve this today.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
suggesting that.
yeah, we could be spending the next hour work.
And it might take time for us to prepare the
Exactly.
agenda topic, so I'm not sure when.
Okay,
I mean, it's not gonna be April or May, I'll tell you that.
even if this year, yeah,
Or, yeah.
okay.
All right.
All right. Let's move to number 2 is park dedication. That,
And sorry, before you, so we're still keeping the ad hoc for CIP review?
with that?
That's just one person now.
Well, is there still going to be a CIP ad hoc? Is the master plan ad hoc going to be converted to a CIP review ad hoc, which is something the commission's had? To review the annual CIP with staff before it goes to the commission for presentation.
When was the last time there was an so there isn't a current ad hoc?
No, that's the master plan ad hoc has been serving in that role.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
And
Was the staff?
so there was either a CIP ad hoc or it was combined with the master
I
plan.
think, to me, that's appropriate.
Mhm.
Because it's on an annual cycle, it goes with our budget review.
Which you
cycle.
guys presented.
What's that?
I mean, it's normally, it's an agenda item that you present on an annual basis.
Yeah, and I think historically, the staff would meet with the ad hoc in advance of that
Right.
commission meeting, right? And so, to me, that's appropriate. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And clarity, Commissioner Kleinhaus, you said now there's only one person.
Oh, I guess I'm still on it. I wasn't clear on that. I thought I resigned, but I haven't, so I guess.
You
created your own ad
Well, isn't that the next step in the agenda?
Yeah.
Is to assign
Yeah.
people to.
Yeah, we haven't got to that point. But we'll make note of the fact that you said you do.
This illustrates why I thought it'd be helpful to go through the work plan.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. All right, park dedication, that'll be for fiscal year 26. I think that's still a good one to have.
Yeah.
Okay. Any objections to that? We're good?
Yeah, I think it's fine as it is.
Okay,
So are we looking to review I think for the time being, we're just talking about if we're keeping the ad hocs or not.
right, and then we'll go
At the next
back
meeting,
and
we'll review.
that's fine.
Yeah. Or at the May meeting.
Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan, ECCP. We'll
That can continue, but we need to work really with staff to figure out some of the difficulties that this plan was done in 2017 and there were drafts in 2019 and 2022 and even the basic conditions have changed since then. And there are a lot of different legislature, on the legislature side, on every level, from the city to the federals, and on the existing conditions, just in terms of what's happening on the land. There's so many changes. And when the existing conditions are different, it trickles down throughout the document. So we've been really struggling with that. And trying to go chapter by chapter and see what can we update, working with staff closely, but it's really tough. And so I think we should continue, but not.
does that fall within what was defined as an ad hoc that's supposed to be temporary? Is it?
Yeah, we started last year.
Yeah,
But it's continuing.
there's specific tasks.
Yeah,
that are
very
defined.
specific.
Yeah, we need to get back with staff and we need to report back to the commission and the status update.
Okay. Moving on to the next one, nature preserve access policy. I think that's. We keep that.
Do we need to keep it? I thought we were done.
No, we're not done. We need to present.
Still.
I think we need to present a couple times to the commission.
Oh,
Okay.
I think if we're going to recommend a policy change, we should have a discussion item first and then followed by an action item. So there's proper time for community review.
Any comments from staff on that?
And sorry, I missed some of your first comments, but we will be presenting, in 2 weeks or about 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks. And I think there's still, after hearing from the meeting from Payback, which will be discussed at the next meeting, there's still a little bit of work to be done. But I think this calendar year, we should be able to close the loop on that, on this.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, hopefully we can wrap up things
Mhm.
within the next few months.
Yep.
So do we
But
still,
I don't know if you heard what I suggested, I think when we come to the commission this month, that should be a discussion item to discuss potential policy change recommendation. And then if we do move forward with a recommendation, that should be an action item as a separate agenda item. So there's time for community review. And that's typically what the commission would do when recommending policy change, rather than generally not a best practice for a policy change recommendation to come as an action to the commission the first time it's discussing it. For the commission and for public transparency as well.
Yeah, there's just a lot of history
Mhm.
that on this item, so I think having, the plan was for it to be a discussion and talk about the work and progress that the ad hoc has made. And also have a recall of history of, because it's spanned years.
okay, so we'll leave it on as an ad hoc?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Okay, and Recreation and Wellness Center. So we've already pretty much, I mean, well, I'll let you.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, that one, no, I mean, the objective has been met. I mean, the fact that the LOI's been written, and now it's sort of a handoff, with Copperleaf. I mean, is there still a need to have this as, but the purpose of this originally came from the city council to look at the feasibility of having, a gym or wellness center in the city of Palo Alto. So that has now morphed into something else. So,
we've achieved some modicum of success in
Right.
raising the level of visibility about the need for a city health and wellness center.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, that's not done at the commission level or at the Friends of the Recreation Center. I don't know how we want to handle this. I think it's worth a discussion in terms of all the Brown Act and the commissioners that are serving on this ad hoc and all of those issues that have come up. But I think for the Coverly Center, and this is just my opinion for it, but for it to be successful, the bond issue is going to require the whole community to be involved and engaged. And it's not just a South Palo Alto thing. It has to be a whole community thing, that the community has to get behind it and understand the need for a community center that promotes health and wellness and everything else. And so I think that it's important for the commission to have an opportunity to affect a positive way forward. So
does
I
it,
don't know
but then does it move from now being an ad hoc maybe to a liaison? Because now
to a what?
to
a liaison.
become liaison.
I would recommend keeping it as an ad hoc. I don't think their work is complete and that they haven't presented the latest update to the commission.
No, you're right.
And so I think before disbanding the ad hoc, that there should be a presentation of encompassing everything that the ad
And I
hoc.
thought we
worked
had
on.
scheduled that for,
Mm,
talked about it for April and May, but maybe that was a couple commission
I think
meetings.
So I think it's reasonable to aim to
Keep it as-
close the ad hoc before the end of the calendar year
And then maybe now become more of a, because really you have, it's working in lockstep now with the Coverly,
Master plan.
master plan.
But if the goals of the ad hoc work plan have been met, then it should be closed.
So what would be so if we're thinking about it as a specific task with an end date, what would that task be? Because the way it's written here, to facilitate progress, I think is too vague.
It is vague. So maybe it's to create a situation where we increase the number of stakeholders in the wellness center
Just that.
that you can measure
So in the interest of time, I think at this meeting, we're just deciding if we're keeping the ad hoc or not, and then we
Right.
can clarify the assignments, and at the May meeting, when we go over the work plan, then we'll,
Yeah, I mean, the reason I asked is because if we can't define that, then there probably isn't a need for an ad hoc. I mean, we have the Friends and we have the commission. Do we need another group to between there? I mean,
Between,
the Friends and the commission. I'm more thinking we have the Friends who can present to the commission whenever that's appropriate. I don't know what the ad hoc would specifically
this,
work on.
Well, I'm not suggesting that I think we need the ad hoc moving forward, but we need the presentation from the ad hoc for closure on the work the ad hoc has done.
Well, and it sounds like staff will be coming to PRC several times this year for topics and providing updates. So during on Coverly
We
specifically.
could wrap it into that.
so would there be a need to have it as a liaison? Versus that?
Would there need to be a cover liaison, is that what you
Yeah,
said?
yeah.
Well, we have one already.
Oh, but then maybe it falls into.
Yeah, there's a probably liaison.
Yeah. Becomes-
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we take it out, we remove it, well, it's complete, we can say it's completed as a,
Well, I don't know if that's the.
well, we haven't done a presentation yet to the commission.
So do we want to say we have a presentation coming to the commission, have a chance to discuss it, because really all the commissioners are gonna need to really have an opportunity to share what they think about the wellness center.
And an opportunity for public comment as well.
Correct.
In addition, of course,
Okay. All right,
a lot of that.
okay, so we're, okay. Playing fields and racket sports. Very broad.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm still a little fuzzy. So it sounds like you're keeping it
Yeah.
on the work,
The ad hoc is being kept for the time being.
For the time being.
okay.
And
then-
when the ad hoc presents to us, then that's the appropriate time to
It moves on.
discuss closing the ad hoc.
Wait a minute, are you saying not,
Isn't this a
Well-
work plan for next fiscal year? So wouldn't we be, if the goal is to have it wrapped by the end of this fiscal year, then it would come off for next fiscal year.
No, I think our goal is that this is a work plan through the end of this calendar year.
no,
Yeah,
what?
that's what we discussed at the
Okay,
beginning.
so keeping it on, okay, through the calendar year.
And the commission.
As we did with the.
Master plan.
Master plan, okay. All right, playing fields, are you clear with that?
Thank you.
Okay.
I,
Is there a recreation wellness center ad hoc
Yes,
still?
yes.
Okay, through the end of the calendar year.
No, not necessarily.
It could leave before then.
Or after.
But between now and the next meeting,
Well, it's not gonna happen in April.
Yeah, yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Because-
yes, so staying, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Playing fields and racket sports.
So remember that came from just playing fields, and then we added racket
It's
sports,
racket
then we had a conversation about whether they should be together or they should be separate. And the direction that we had was, let's see what we need. And
So- Adam, what do you, in the things that you're working on, what is your field? So how would you?
Well, I'm guessing at this point, the playing field is more around the conversations around the turf versus the grass. So I think it should be separate because that's a very specific goal that's gonna be discussed, that's gonna have a beginning, middle, and end, and it will come to an end. And then we do have the RAC2 policy or the racket policy that will need to be addressed for this calendar year. And I think we all see pickleball returning,
Part of that.
but I do think those two different conversations, the same people shouldn't be, I don't think. Well, they could be, but I mean, staff's gonna have to be different.
So what are you calling the first ad hoc? You're gonna call it?
I mean, maybe it's just specific. I mean, I don't want now.
You need
Go down your alley here, but
And I just comment that the reason they're most likely the reason they're part of the same ad hoc is there's a single policy document that governs both of them.
That's, yeah, I think that's why they came together. I just think the fields portion conversation right now isn't about policy. Well, it's just not about the court and fields policy. It's a bigger question, policy question about turf and grass.
So do you need two ad hocs, one liaison and one ad hoc? No, none of the above? What should we do?
For the court section, I think needs to be an ad hoc. It's gonna be ongoing conversations about policy change.
And that's not gonna happen overnight.
That's not gonna happen.
That's why you have an ad hoc.
So I think
And
that's very
that's why-
much appropriate to continue with that one.
And do you recommend a ad hoc or regarding playing fields discussions?
I do, I do, and I think the focus this year would be on the turf study.
Yep.
How long do we expect this study that if it's approved by council, how long is it supposed to take?
The deliverables in August.
Okay.
Didn't make sense.
Okay.
I have a question about that that's kind of off the topic, but it's really on the topic. Do we know if the scope included the questions that we ask to have included in the, that we suggested to have included in the scope?
You can read it.
Or can we not talk about this right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
We can read it, we just can't read it.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
I just really just ask it.
I'm not sure what questions you're referring to.
About conversion to grass fields, the amount of additional land needed to satisfy the people, I mean, the users, the costs, the environmental impacts.
Well,
But that's,
Are you asking if that's part of the work plan for the
No,
current plan?
I'm asking if it's specifically,
that's
that's
been
been
the
said that
scope
way.
of the
In the
contract.
scope of the RFP, if those questions were gonna be included that the commission asked several months ago.
So I have before me the city council packet that covers this item, and there is an exhibit A that describes the scope of services that the turf study would encompass. I can't know whether it meets with the recommendations made by this group, but I am happy to, this is a public document. I can point it out to you, I can share it with you right now. So that somebody can sort of figure that out.
okay, so what are we calling this, the two that you're gonna split up?
Rocket court policy ad hoc
Okay,
and
playing fields,
and turf replacement.
church replacement?
Aren't there two though, two?
There's two,
There's an and.
Right.
So do turf replacement ad hoc sufficient or do you playing field turf replacement?
Oh, we're playing
I'm
fields.
stuck on the replacement word.
Yeah,
We
me too.
don't know what we're
Okay, what do you?
Turf study.
Turf review.
Turf
Turf
study.
review. Well, it's not hot, so
Playing field review, it doesn't say anything about turf, but it includes it.
Turf policy?
Yeah,
I'm fine keeping it playing field.
yeah, I think playing fields makes it a little bit more.
Broad.
well, but I think it's, when we can focus the specifics of an ad hoc, then we can. Playing field focus.
I think, playing field, we also have a large capital project, which is the Mayfield, which Councilmember Lipcott Haynes also brought up earlier in the meeting. And so
It falls under that same. category.
that could also, I feel like there's gonna be multiple things with the turf study in, along with Mayfield, and then proposed for next fiscal year, will detail out El Camino, and that's based on the findings from the turf study. So there's a lot for the playing field
So
ad hoc.
we could call it the playing field ad hoc. Can we narrow it down with playing field surface or playing field management? That's not right, but is there another one we can add to be more specific, or just go with playing field? Or just go with playing field for today and then clean it up at the meeting where we create the work plan?
So then this would include the policies that Adam,
No, that's separate.
that has to be set. I'm not talking about the court policies, I'm talking about the policies of soccer goals and putting away things, you know.
But it's just, I think it's a very different conversation.
Yeah, it
that
is.
would need to be taking place.
But do you have a need to revise that?
No, I hope not.
Right.
But he
so
doesn't know.
There's no task.
No, yeah, I think it's specific, I don't think we need the field's policy portion as an ad hoc this year, as far as we can tell.
Okay.
This is very specific about the turf study, so I don't.
You can call it,
Playing,
you can call it whatever.
playing field study.
Okay, and if we have to sign it, change it again, okay, playful study, so we're about to. Right. Yeah, but we did some.
And the other one is racket court.
Report policy.
Very cool.
Okay, racket courts policy.
Okay,
Do we still need an ad hoc for that, or is that the?
that's an ad.
No,
He said he does.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can
And-
vote, so I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
All right, and the last one is. Ooh,
Middle school, actually.
Yes.
Middle school, answer.
yeah, let's go for that.
Back to the presentation. Or,
We have one more, two more. We didn't, I didn't see the nature preserve access policy. Was it on there?
It's not, well, it's the wrong title, not wrong, it's the old title, bicycle e-bike,
Oh, okay,
e-bike access.
okay, so we have the next one is the nature preserve access policy.
Yeah, we talked about that one.
Okay,
Yeah, I think the one that's not on there is the middle school athletics.
yeah, Mass Middle School, that's like,
Yeah. that
should
one.
be, okay. That one's a new one, so that one we keep. Okay. Any,
That one is what?
that's one.
Middle
It's not
school athlete,
Staying,
staying.
Yeah,
Okay.
continuing.
Okay.
It's fine.
So I think I'm still thinking on what to do about the natural part of what we do. And I'm not sure how, but I think it might come through whenever there's a project for a park renovation, like what is being done currently at Weymouth, then it should have a component of natural ecosystem restoration in the park somewhere. And maybe that should be part of the ad hoc that is working on the capital processes. But I'm not sure if that's possible. I mean, I'm hoping to have some more nature in our parks in general. It doesn't have to be humongous, but you know, some. And at the same time, not to have the kind of pushback that we got for the turf at Boulevard Park. So I'm not sure how that would be best approach, what the best approach would be to that. And maybe staff has ideas.
Okay.
I think, all CIP projects have community outreach and engagement. And I think, we've had internal discussions already about, maybe what can prevent that from taking place moving forward. In regards to bullware.
Okay, so that's good. But I'm looking for, I know there's community meetings for each park, but I kind of hope that we have an input into that in general. So I don't know if each one of them comes to us and we go, you know, like, it's a little bit of attitude, it's a little bit of change of design if you're going to look for the places where you can actually enhance, put some native flower gardens, just a little bit along somewhere, you know, that kind of thing. And I don't, there are a lot of things that we could potentially, and I don't know how we structure, how we engage maintenance people, but you know, often there is a lot of work that is being done in parks that maybe doesn't need to be done and would enhance the ecological value and at the same time maybe even save money. I'm not sure what the best way, if we can address that, how do we do that?
Good.
Well, Commissioner Brown has her hand up and
Okay.
then
Okay.
I'll
Commissioner Brown?
just say, like, for Bullware, we saw the plan as a commission, and so I think it was before you were on the commission where we saw the plan, and that would be a great opportunity to provide specific comments on, it says turf, what kind of turf? we want to we ask the community what kind of turf they like. So there is already a check for the commission to opine on those projects as they come through, as well as for the community to put input on. And as far as operations and best practices and things, I think as a commission or as members of the public, like we can share that information with staff. I don't know that it rises to a policy level where there's a specific ad hoc that's needed to address the operations or how maintenance is done of the parks. I think that's really more operational staff level, but as interested members of the park and users, I don't see why we can't provide that input and feedback to staff, but I'll defer to them on if that would be helpful.
I'll just respond to that first and then.
No, go ahead.
So, I think that in terms of public outreach, people don't know what they don't know. They don't always know to ask what kind
Right.
of turf are you using, because they wouldn't even think of, plastic turf in a taught playing area. I wouldn't want my kid crawling on it, and I think people didn't even know that they could ask that question. It didn't look to us like there was some kind of plastic. So I think that that's missing, but that's where a little bit more of our input is necessary potentially. The other thing about maintenance, I think one of the largest reasons why we have such mostly, I would say, ecologically limited parks is due to maintenance. And that there is something that could be done as policy to change maintenance. And I've seen that done on Google Campus with amazing results. And I don't know how we can do something similar. And I don't necessarily want to take it on myself right now, even if I did, but they have guidelines for maintenance of their landscaping and their parks, which everywhere you go now, you'll see butterflies everywhere. It's pretty amazing. Even on the campus in Palo Alto at East Meadow Circle, they just planted the right things and the monarchs are coming. And we can restore this. It's actually in our general plan and in our parks master plan to do it. We haven't done it. I'm not sure how, and I think it does need an ad hoc or something to work with stuff on, not necessarily going, oh, don't do this, yes, do that, but to develop those guidelines.
What would you, how would you label it?
There are a lot of different documents that exist now that provide guidance on how to bring nature into a city. It's very, very popular right now. And I don't know that, so how I would do it, I would maybe start with parks that are going through renovation, because you don't have the funding to go into a park that's already there with the, fixed yesterday to say, oh, let's change it. But when we change one, we really need to think about the specific guidelines. And what do we plant here if we plant new stuff? I'm not saying to rip up stuff and replace it necessarily, maybe a little bit here and there, but it's been done. It's not, and the city of Mountain View, they're now developing a biodiversity strategy plan for the entire city. They have it for their biggest parks, but now they're developing one for the entire city. We don't have something like that, but we can learn from them. And it's really based primarily on their parks and city properties, so street trees and parks. We do a lot of it already. We plant oak trees, a lot of things we do already that are great. But it would be nice to frame them, and I can't think of any other commission or entity in the city that would take on something like that.
So a couple comments. One.
Wait a minute,
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
I
I can't remember what
well, I can feed a pitch to you. I mean, first question I have is to ask staff how the commission can work with staff to further this goal. And the second comment is, it is possible we could create a liaison role as just a point person within the commission to preview new park update plans before they're presented to the commission.
I want to, okay.
I don't know if I thinking through it. Yeah, I'm processing, so I don't know if I have an answer right now. I don't know what to do, Sarah.
Yeah, I think if can we keep circling? 'Cause
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder if it just segue to nature versus accessibility to nature. So I don't know whether I'm stepping onto the toes operational level, looking to use accessing nature. And last year we actually changed the use council to use as a liaison. And I'm wondering if that can be also looking to use ad hoc, having more teams. I have to admit, I miss Commissioner Elchi, we were promoting this, how youth and elders can do cross generational learning. So I proposed about working closely with the transportation department to resume our shuttle and but bring them to the park as one of the major purpose. So I'm wondering whether that's a possibility to bring that forward as a use related ad hoc and have more people to help you communicate with another department, which also understand going through a lot of transition into team staff as well.
So you're saying, how could you make the ad hoc?
Yeah.
And would that be the proper label that you would use for that, or would you? So you're saying moving?
Use to nature, maybe it's more, use accessibility to nature, more appropriate label, and also you have a, multi departmental coordinator, whether that's the person can be on point. And then also I'm acutely aware how short of staff you are, and also majority of that really rely on maybe even budget come from transportation department.
So I think we segued away from the previous conversation, and I think Commissioner Brown has a comment on that before we get into the shuttle.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of also on the shuttle, just, I think going back to what the chair outlined at the beginning is what is a liaison versus what is an ad hoc? I think just, this is just important to me, so I want to move it up to an ad hoc. And I also don't think that really the ad hocs or liaisons should be directing staff to do anything. Bring me this, do this, change the way you maintain this park. We're really looking at policy alternatives and being your example about the shuttle. I would think if the commission does have an interest in exploring different accessibility alternatives, the ad hoc's goal shouldn't be shuttle. It should be look at all the different options and bring them back for consideration. And it wouldn't necessarily be done in this budget year because the commission would be exploring different accessibility policy alternatives and then bringing that forward for consideration. It could include looking at the shuttle as an option, but not really starting with the end goal. And I don't know if the full commission's interested in that as a project, but I could see that being an ad hoc if we are. But I don't think that moving something to, I think the liaison roles should really just be a conduit of a point person for information, but they shouldn't be, again, directing staff on maintenance and what should be done versus what shouldn't be done. But I think it would be helpful to have a conversation about the roles, like the chair wanted to at the beginning.
The comment?
I agree with what Commissioner Brown just said about the shuttle. That's a very specific project. That's gonna take significant resources, both to explore that, but then also implement it. And I think the appropriate way to do that, if we feel accessibility to foothills is an issue, look at, I guess, accessibility to get from point A to point B. So not entering into the park, because we have extensive ways people can access Foothills Park for free or reduced rates. So I would think that if that was something the commission wanted to explore, an ad hoc could explore that and then present something to the council and the council could make a recommendation. Because we don't have this, if this is something the city council has referred to us to look into, that's one thing, but to
For the commission.
identify this and then also loop transportation in when, you know, is a significant lift.
Yeah, I see your point. It's more to address the age group of, teenagers don't have license and we have a teen, mental health issue and then how do we get them to nature basically? And also how seniors can be involved too.
Right, I mean, we do have Bailings, as you know, nature
Yeah.
preserve, that's much
Yeah.
more accessible
Yeah,
as far as access.
yeah,
you
and
know,
also
just
was
closer, you can bike
understanding, currently the taxi vendor has been renewed. I thought that's a good time to bring out. And I also understanding, we don't have data yet, but from what I hear on the street in Palo Alto, majority of teens hated the taxi. They love the shuttle because it's a social club for them. And it's something they really missed since COVID. And even the youth council mentioned, going to Far Hill Park, they're all like overjoyed, we can go there for their retreat. Their retreat is in the teen center, which they go every week. So there's something we could consider, even getting them once a month, once a quarter, and getting them. And a lot of them don't have license, don't have car. And there's also, the possibility of,
Okay,
but I understand your perspective totally and try to see how the accessibility can be a bigger, broader topic.
We've had discussions about it, and I have a vague memory that the shuttle was either in the park master plan or in the general plan, and I'm not sure. So you might want to see if it's there, but there were other things we mentioned, like junior ranger programs,
Right, right.
things like that. And I think the
we
focus
discussed
is
it
really-
last year.
Yeah.
We did, and I think the main problem is always resources, obviously,
Yeah.
and difficulty in execution that really did not move this forward, even though most of us kind of like to support it. So I'm not sure, I don't have any suggestions at this point, but I still
Maybe
think
we can come back to that at some point. Let's,
this is, once we decide what we're doing.
yeah, we just have to finish up on the,
But I still think that, if we could, I like Commissioner Greenfield idea of having a liaison that looks at the parks and potentially, before it comes to the full forum of the commission. And, I don't know, this is a policy issue. I don't see that maintenance of parks is not a policy issue. I really do think that it is. Because if we want parks to be, when I look at the kids in our park, when I take the dog, the things that they find most interesting is if they manage to find a stick on the bottom, then they have something to play with. Otherwise, it's sterile. And when the leaves fall and the piles of leaves come up, they jump in and out. They need that touch. And right now we clean those parks so that there won't be anything that anybody could. It's almost devoid of nature and also fun. If you want to go and play and you're not in an organized sport, then in a program that's designed, then you have very little freedom to actually find something to play with.
Okay.
And I'm trying to solve that, and I do think it's policy.
Okay. All right, I think we've kind of moved along a bit there, but we finished the ad hoc committees, now we just need to,
So should we have a park accessibility ad hoc, like Commissioner Brown mentioned earlier?
One suggestion I have on that is I'm concerned about the staff resources. We've got, right now we have 8 ad hocs on the list. One is part-time, the CIP is part-time.
can you put up the ones that we just?
Let me,
The work plan?
well, I
No,
have a working list, so,
Are you on you could share your screen.
how do I do that?
Are you
I'm
on?
not on Zoom. Can you Teams it to me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were somewhere.
And then we have two ad hocs, which we're hoping will be wrapping up, the rec wellness center and the access policy.
Right.
What I suggest is maybe we table this discussion until May, when we're reviewing the work plan. And see if we can perhaps lock this ad hoc into to start up after the others finish up and give staff an opportunity to consider resources.
Reviewing the work plan in May,
That what
I mean, out of the commission.
we were doing that. I don't know, are we still
I
doing
think
that?
we're doing that.
I guess that was with the idea that we needed to. We need to update our work plan.
Update the work
We need to
plan.
update our work plans
Oh.
to submit based on the changes we're making now. So that would be an appropriate time to take that on.
1 month after, the next one.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I appreciate your recognition that there are a lot of ad hocs and they take significant staff time.
Yeah,
Significant.
we can consolidate.
And,
Yeah,
So I'm hesitant to advocate create a new ad hoc until
Yeah.
one or two other ad hocs finish
Moved
up.
off.
yeah, I agree.
Appreciate
So we have the nature preserve access policy, and this totally can look into use access to nature.
No, that's not part of the purview of that's not part of the current work plan of that ad hoc.
Okay,
That's completely.
We'll have to do a different
Nicole
one.
has pulled up, kind of the new list. It's not formatted as, but I
Okay.
can.
Yeah, I really, real quickly, I want to suggest we remove study from playing field ad hoc name because that limits.
I don't think it's smaller, so we'll all fit on the screen. 1 second.
No, you're good.
yeah, we can just do the ad hocs first and then the liaison. So you're
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's good right there.
Yeah.
We'll just tackle the, yeah.
Okay.
So
Um,
I was just suggesting removing study from the playing field ad hoc name. I know I pushed for that, but on further review, I think it's a bad idea.
yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan,
Continue.
Commissioner Greenfield and Commissioner Kleinhouse, still.
You want to join us?
Sarah?
You know what?
I've been on all.
We can let the staff liaisons get filled in afterwards.
Okay. Anybody else want to join that one?
Yeah, I can join that one.
Thank you, Commissioner Ray. No, she's done.
The first
No, no.
There's one up there.
No, you're ready. Okay, nature preserve access policy. I'm good with staying on that one.
Well, that
Which
one's
one?
almost done, right?
That's all.
It's almost done, yeah.
We'll keep that at this. VIP review. Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Kleinhouse.
I'm not so sure.
Chair, do you want to join that one? The chair is often part of that.
I was gonna throw my hand up for that one.
I guess I'll stay for the purpose, for what I mentioned before.
Okay.
To
Alright.
be able to have an idea.
Okay, park dedication. We have Commissioner Greenfield, Commissioner Way.
I'm thinking of moving from the location to the playing field. Because I think Jeff got it all handled.
I definitely, well, I would like someone on the ad hoc with me.
Oh, which one? Park dedication?
Yeah.
Let's put, well, Commissioner Dean is staying, done.
I'll do that one, that's not as much work. I've been on it before. I've been on that before, so I don't mind doing that.
Okay, so Kleinhouse to park dedication.
And do you want to come off of it?
Yeah, come up with, and then join the playing field instead.
Yeah, feel like I should join the playing field.
You were on it before, but you probably,
As much as I.
you should probably,
Yeah.
And that Commissioner Dang may want to be on that as well.
Let's stick around. she's not here.
Yeah, Commissioner Friedman.
Yeah, I actually would like to be on that one, but there was some comment about not being on both the playing fields and the courts, so.
Oh, I don't think that's a real thing.
Oh, I thought that was.
No,
I think he said that,
but we have separate that, hope they can be on board.
Chair, did you say you want to be on those as well?
What do you want to?
so you wanna be on.
Well, I wouldn't stay on the, I wouldn't stay on the
I'm sorry?
court's policy.
You wanna be on the playing field.
I do, but if I have to choose between the playing fields and the courts, I would like to be on.
So you want to move from policy up to the playing field?
No, she's saying she wants to stay on policy,
Okay.
not to speak for her, but. I guess I
You
just
what?
did. Not to speak for you, but I guess I just did.
I think she said she wants to be on the playing field also.
Well,
Yes, but
But I was trying not to be because of the comment that was about, we didn't want the same people to go on the same thing, so.
I mean,
I don't know if it matters,
yeah.
Okay.
but then someone would have to come up, because then we have 4.
and I was just suggesting that Commissioner Dang would want to be on it, because she. Given her past experience.
Well, then take me off of that and leave me on the courts.
That's the way it is.
Okay. Recreation, so we're good? And we're down to Recreation Wellness Center, we're wrapping up, so we'll leave that as is.
Yeah.
Did we, okay, the middle school athletics? It's still on?
I don't know, given the fact that my term is up, maybe it's better for somebody else to be on it who would have a longer time, because that, in my opinion, is gonna take some time.
I hope it doesn't take too much time.
You don't think so?
Well, I hope it can wrap up
Middle school?
quickly.
Yeah, and the task that's defined for this ad hoc should be able to be wrapped up, and then something else needs to be done.
But it depends on.
Yeah, it's good to have continuity because the other big,
Okay.
I think maybe by November it can be right.
Okay, we'll just say it's gonna be wrapped up by November or October.
Okay. All right, I think that wraps it up for the ad hocs.
And Commissioner Brown is back, I don't know.
Oh,
So, sorry, the baby was screaming, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay, I just wanted to make sure
we
you.
want to
had
see if
coverage.
you have a preference to be moved around or stay where you are. Or
Yeah,
do we add-
middle school athletics, definitely, and then I was happy staying on CIP review, so, but I'm happy to go anywhere else that you guys need me.
I think we've got 3 on each one. Yeah, Park dedication,
Oh, fine. That's fine too.
what, 2 park dedication?
It's fine. Unless someone wants to join us.
I don't mind turn. I'll join.
Or dedication?
Sure. Wait a minute. I have nothing else to do.
I was gonna say, you're on 4 hours. Do we need to get a little hobby?
Okay, it seems, Nelly's joint didn't take me off. No, seriously, I didn't want to have only one person, but if there is another person, then I'm not needed.
Or do you want to fall into the line?
Oh, yeah.
You can both stay on a flip for it later.
Okay, we're good.
Moving on,
All right.
All right.
liaisons.
Liaison.
Oh,
So aquatics we keep, right?
What, aquatics?
You're aquatics.
I think that, Commissioner Brown is wanting to do that. I'm not speaking for you, Mandy, but
Yes, love aquatics.
Community gardens,
So are you wanting to stay on aquatics or you're?
I mean, I'm like a permanent fixture now.
Yeah, she's
that's right, you've been on that for,
good.
Ever.
so you want to stay, right? Finish it up? No?
I don't need
So
to.
Kurt's is back.
No, Mandy, I'm happy to work with you if you have any questions.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I was
The
gonna do it
baton-
anyways, whether or not you offered, so.
The baton has been passed.
Okay. Good. Okay, community gardens. Actually, I don't mind joining you in that, on that one, Commissioner Brown. I'm trying to get my garden started, so hey, the more knowledgeable I know the better. I haven't spent a little time with that.
You know, now that
cool.
you said it, you know, you can remove me if I pull Kleinhaus. I just don't know that it needs two on there, so I think, but again, I'm
Yeah.
happy to consult with you if you have any questions.
It's up to you, it's up to you.
I think it just needs one. I think you can take it.
Yeah, having served that role for a number of years, I agree, one person is good.
Mhm.
Okay. Who's the, we'll get the contact with staff contacts. Coverly,
So it feels like it makes sense for me to stay there until November.
okay,
But it also makes sense for the chair to be on it as well, since it's so important. So if we only want one, I'm happy to remove myself.
And do you envision any potential ad hoc being created regarding Coverly?
Maybe, I would hope so.
Yeah,
We need a specific task as
Yeah.
as a commission.
let me think about that.
okay, it's tricky.
I think that almost the task is community engagement that's general rather than specific.
I
single
know, and
interest.
now I'm wondering if we need an ad hoc now. Even though I just said no more ad hoc.
So discuss in May.
Yeah,
Bring it back in May.
yeah.
You can.
I mean, to Shawnee's point a while ago, the commissioner, and not putting words in your mouth, but you said, I remember how important it was for the whole commission to be involved in Coverly and have the opportunity to shape what's going on there. And I think if we have an ad hoc, it shows the relative importance that we all ascribe to Coverly. So.
I agree, I just didn't feel like they were really looking for a lot of input from us. I felt like the message was, we're gonna develop things and present them to you. So I'm fine with having more interaction, but I'm not sure that the team that is developing the plan is really looking for that. We will be.
Yeah, when we
Okay.
presented the work plan to council, that's when the middle school athletics item got added. So maybe in presenting the work plan, council may have something specific as Coverly, or it could be a one-off directive to Parks and Rec to form an ad hoc to answer this specific question. I think that was how the tree, I don't remember, the tree item update happened sort of mid-year out of cycle. So it doesn't, just because it's not in this proposed work plan right now, doesn't mean that something couldn't get directed to the commission related to Coverly.
Well, maybe we can discuss it after they come and present to us. I thought they were supposed to come and present to us. Or do you-
Staff's coming in April. It's just
Yeah,
staff.
so that could also be an appropriate time to discuss if an ad hoc should be created.
Yeah.
And if necessary, add an action item to potentially consider that.
Would there be a possibility to consolidate the wellness center with Coverly, so there's a continuance of Coverly as ad hoc? Then you won't add one more ad hoc, which is already eight. So one focus on wellness and then continuous focus on Coverly
I think that's
as a solution.
reasonable, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
For dog parks. Good.
Somebody wants to work with
Let's
this.
see, okay, Commissioner Dave's only on one, do you want to have the?
Yeah, I think we need to hear from her what she's interested in and consider changing the
Yeah.
liaison assignments to get her more involved in some of the liaison roles.
Yeah, that's true.
But we can't speak for her. I don't feel like I can speak for her. I've done enough of that already.
Alright, so we'll leave that as is. Commissioner Brown, Brooks, you'd like to give dog park?
Yep, keep me there.
Dog park. Dog,
Oh, the God.
dogs, dog. Is that where we are?
Yeah, dog parks.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to funding partners,
This is an
What is
interesting
that,
one,
actually?
is that the Friends?
Yes.
No, not the Friends of the Wellness Center, that, I think the funding partners is, speaks to the Recreation Foundation and also the Friends of the Parks.
Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, those two groups that Ann just said.
Yep.
Okay. Keep as is. Golf, first tee, I don't mind
That's
staying
you.
on that one.
You want to stay on it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Open space preserve.
So that we used to have separate liaisons for Baylands and Foothills Nature Preserve, and then Sharon Kleinhouse and I ended up being the liaisons for both, so we just created it.
Is that-
We combined it into open space.
Open
preserve
space,
liaisons. So that's fine to leave as is unless others want. I'm fine with that, I'm just highlighting that. Does that work for staff?
Okay. Well, although, yeah, I'm not sure what's it? My name was on last year, but I never
The
actually,
PAUSD one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Do you go to the PAUSD meeting or what's the?
I haven't. I mean, they're very down football, so.
They weren't happening for a while.
Yeah.
We just had one. Yeah, and they're now in the evening at 7 p.m.
so since we're talking about that, I know it's getting late, but how could the commission, if the commissioners wanted to do this, really get people to focus on the fact that we have incredible facilities in the city, but we don't share them very well,
So like between schools and,
between the schools and the city?
Well, I think part of this, when this was created, was originally about that,
Mhm.
because I know you brought that up previously.
It's
I
starting to
don't know
come
the
up in
answer.
some of the community meetings,
Yeah.
very passionate.
especially
women.
with the,
With the
Other
court, the tennis
politicians
courts,
policy.
that meeting that we had, she was incredibly passionate about the fact that we have these amazing facilities and we don't share them.
yeah,
We
the
don't share
schools, staff
schools, we don't
schools.
share this, we don't,
Yeah.
and we're all taxpayers, and I think,
In every city, and I work in a lot of different cities on park issues, a lot of them have these kind of problems.
Yes.
How do we share or don't share?
mhm,
And I would say, even if we have problems, it's nothing like what you see in the cities, where there are huge fights between the city and the school districts. There was in Mountain View, just as an example, most of the school grounds serve as parks, and then the school decided for safety zones to fence them and close them, so no more parks for the community. I think, and in Sunnyvale, there was a big fight about some of their parks in relation to that. I think we need to be very, very careful
I think that's, I think
touching
that's a really,
that, because
really
the
good point.
fights that come out made huge differences in elections, and it just became such a mess in Mountain View, just saying this.
So how does this, work? I mean, is it one that we still want
The liaison role was created as a commission member to attend the monthly meetings, monitor and report back to the commission.
Do they do monthly or every
Yeah.
other week? They do every other week or monthly?
Monthly,
to?
and you attend those meetings typically, Kristen?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's the same time as our meeting? I think they're Tuesdays sometime,
Mhm.
right?
I think that's.
I thought they were Thursdays.
Maybe the
I don't know.
They used to be like at 8 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, we can keep it, I don't mind staying on there unless someone else wants to jump on it.
And I can inform you if there's something I feel you should pay attention to, if you prefer.
Yes,
Going to every meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think sometimes there's not really beefy agenda topics. They'll do like a city update, a school update, and but sometimes
Okay.
visit.
Let's do it.
I appreciate the offer to report back. It might be useful to keep a liaison where if there's a specific agenda, you could, that would.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah,
yeah, so I can say, there's,
okay.
this is on the agenda, you
Okay.
should pay attention.
Well,
Or, you
even,
know,
even
you can
just,
watch.
I think
Yeah.
just having the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Self routes.
Safe routes,
Safe
yeah,
routes.
definitely.
You staying on that one?
Please.
With the new bike plan?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You wanna hop on?
No, we have the best person possible.
Commissioner Lee, you wanna jump on that? Very good. State parks, I know you want to stay on that one.
Well, yeah, except for I'm wondering, since there's so much history there, if there's somebody else who wants to join that, since I'm leaving you all.
I can support you on that.
Okay.
Usually might want that one.
Urban forestry.
And I'm happy to stay with that. We definitely should keep a liaison role given our mandated relationship.
And eventually I can take over, not yet, but I've been working with,
You can add it now.
You can add it
I
in.
put a lot of time into this anyway,
Okay,
so.
so what we actually in now?
Yeah.
Huh?
You want to be added?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
add me, but with the recognition that the intent is that I'm learning.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're still reviewing the
All right.
tree and landscape technical manual.
youth, what's gonna call it, youth calling, youth council?
Yeah, we call it youth now since last year, so it's like a broader, we join both youth council, and also their events.
Okay, so we'll stay with that.
Yeah.
Great. All right, any additions? No? We're good?
You were talking about the park update,
Yeah.
park updates liaison.
So, yeah, I can be a parks update liaison if that is something you can consider.
So we're gonna call it parks liaison. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Parks,
Well, it's not for every time that somebody moves in the park, but when there are plans to change something, then I can
okay. What
potentially
do you want, what do you wanna call it?
parks update. For some park,
Park updates.
Park projects.
Park projects,
Okay.
park renovation.
garden.
But
Guardian, there you go. I thought you said park grading.
Okay.
sorry,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I have a clarifying, how would that be different than the CIP review? Is,
Because the CIP is once a year, right?
She wants to review every project.
I wanna see, not every
I know,
little project.
I know, but do you see what, because park projects that would,
So you're saying it needs a different name or?
well, I guess I just wanna be clear what type of projects, are they capital improvement projects?
The way I could see this potentially working and need staff's input on this is, it would be capital projects, but based on the revolving renovation cycle for the parks and playgrounds, those projects come to the commission for review, and this liaison would be someone involved with staff. Pre-review, just review it, working with them before it comes to the commission. And provide input, potentially, report back to the commission and liaison inputs. I mean, some of them keep the staff is keeping the commission updated on what's happening. But if there are specific, areas that the commission is interested in, the liaison can serve to highlight and remind staff of this before it comes to the commission. So we potentially included the president staff reports and proposals that go to the full commission. That's a thought. Staff, I need, if that's something that can work, that would be helpful to staff.
What if there's a new dog park? Does this person review it too, in addition to the dog park group?
No, dog parks would be separate. There is a dog park liaison.
Mhm.
Right, but so then this person reviews all parks, but not the dog park parts of the park. Like it's getting murky. I think it's getting confusing to where the roles end.
It's playgrounds and facilities.
But
Yeah, it makes-
Dog parks are kind of a separate, and restrooms are separate as well, but.
And
think-
aquatics and gardens and
Yeah.
open space.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, maybe it's not in that respect, but I'm still trying to figure out how, when we're doing a new park, we really enhance the native ecosystems that we have. And
Maybe this is a different title.
Park renovation liaison, is that?
but
Wait.
I guess to me, it almost seems like you're on the CIP review, and so
It
is
would
that
fall-
ad hoc, it would fall
Under
under that. Because what I'm concerned about is there's already 3 people on the CIP review, and adding another, I think can sort of muddy.
The CIP review is part of it's to look at what's planned for the next budget cycle, and then that's it.
Yeah, it's just in November, December, January.
Where-
Like a 3 week.
So I'm not sure that's a conflict, I'm just concerned about. And just.
Let's,
Should we table this until May?
Yeah, let's see.
And Commissioner Brown is wanting. to-
So we previously had a sustainability commissioner, and I think we got rid of it either last year or 2 years ago because we had a hard time defining what that role was. And maybe if we wanted to reinvent it, and Shawnee, you can decide on whatever language, like biodiversity or like maybe that's more of what it is, rather than having a specific charge of I'm gonna review every park that improvement
Yeah.
before it comes to council, but I'm gonna be the conduit of making sure that biodiversity exists in parks and any other facilities, and just sort of as a broader bucket. That's just one thought.
so that's a good idea. The sustainability liaison that we used to be, we used to have, would go to the Sustainability Advisory Commission and come back with what the recommendations were in that forum. But I think it could be changed to include sustainability features and so on. So I kind of like this idea of restoring it as sustainability and biodiversity both, and
Maybe
looking at it from that.
maybe you can
point of
frame
view.
it as a title of that.
Mhm.
So what do you would call
Sustainability to biodiversity.
it?
liaison.
Yeah,
Sustainability.
No, that's a good idea.
thank you.
Does that work for staff?
Thank you.
Wayne, would you like to do that one too?
Yeah, sure.
There we go.
All right, you can take it. The other one.
So we need this, contact, in your assignment later.
All right,
We'll do it later.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that wraps that one up, right?
Do we need to vote on anything? Nothing specifically listed as an action.
Or does it happen, do we bring it back to a full commission?
So the liaison roles, actually, the appointments and the creation of the appointments to the commission, to the ad hocs, and the appointments of the liaison roles and the creation of liaison roles are subject to the chair. They can do that. Typically, an action is required to create an ad hoc. And we're kind of doing that, so maybe
what have
one.
we created? Which we did create.
All of the ad hocs are technically being created.
Created.
If it's the
Okay.
same people, right?
Oh, no, those are appointments really. The one we're creating would be the fields.
Policy.
Field.
Can you go back to the ad hoc, please?
The playing field ad hoc is technically being created, so we could just have a vote.
Separate vote of that.
Or we could just have a vote to establish the ad hocs and liaison roles. So while the chair can make these appointments, they can also be voted on by the commission as well, which is typically been the practice of the commission.
To vote on.
Yeah, but
The entire-
but it's not required. Yeah, we can just vote on them.
Okay, so you want to motion out there to.
Make a motion to adopt the ad hoc committees and assignments and liaison roles and assignments as listed.
It's got,
Do we need to say pending something with Judy or?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or just, you can remove.
Just a question.
You can remove Commissioner Dang from the playing field, that's a good point. So there's an open spot for it.
I mean, and a reminder, we can always add ad hoc.
Sure.
At any time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have.
do I get a
to
second
be
on,
assigned.
Commissioner? Okay.
Yeah.
Adding,
Second by,
adding to the inaction
Commissioner
reassignment.
Cripps. And
Ready to
go
vote?
to vote.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Cripps.
Yes.
Chair Freeman,
Yes,
Vice Chair Greenfield,
Yes,
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Yes,
Commissioner White,
Yes.
motion carries.
thank you.
thank you.
All right, and let's see. I think that's all right.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
And,
Thank you, Chair.
sorry that, I think we had it originally scheduled for 4.
Yeah. Who was the-
So we're actually within